Welcome to PENSARE Basketball. We are back. I can't believe it. I'm never going to take these lives for granted again. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you are not subscribed. The Toronto Raptors with a huge, enormous win against a team that, in my opinion, is right up there with the NBA contenders. Now that Dallas has fallen, I think it's barely between OKC and the Clippers. So if you're wondering what magnitude of impressiveness that this really is, I mean, this is very impressive. And you beat a team, granted, without Norman Powell, granted, on the fourth game of a road trip, all of that. But you beat a team that, frankly, is one of the most impressive defenses I've ever seen in my life. And they're the second ranked defense for good reason. With Kawhi Leonard, they have been damn near unbeatable. I believe they're 8-2. And this was just such an impressive game from everybody, really everybody. This wasn't one of those games where I felt like the bench completely carried you. This wasn't the Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, Chris Boucher masterclass, although they'd all played and they all played well and they all contributed. This was a game in which I think players under 25 really showed out. And that really starts with RJ Barrett. I think RJ started the game very shaky. Two straight plays in which, his man scored. And I was like, uh-oh, we're in for one of those games. But then he also came out and he scored the first 8 points for the Raptors. And you're like, okay, we're in for one of those games. And if you look at the splits, the Raptors are a decidedly better team when RJ Barrett is efficient and when RJ Barrett is going and when RJ Barrett is scoring, they are a better team. And when he has those stinkers where he goes 5 for 18, they almost always lose. They also got a very good game from Scottie Barnes, at least in the first half. I thought he was great. He did tweak his ankle. We'll talk about that at some point. It's the second game in a row where I feel like, maybe he's moving a little bit differently, but he competed hard. RJ Barrett drew a sizable amount of the time on Kawhi Leonard, and I think he competed very hard in that regard. Jakob Poeltl, very solid. Gradey Dick, probably one of his better games as a Raptor, if I'm being honest. Like, he was just so efficient. 18 points on just 9 attempts. He was +8. Very good overall. And Jacoby Walter. That second half for Jacoby Walter. But what a team win. This is like the definition of a team win. Not one player scores more than 20 points. That's impressive. Everybody who stepped onto the court pretty much contributed. Ochai Agbaji, another one of those players under 25, he went 5 for 5 from the field, 2 for 2 from 3. The Raptors shot a blistering percentage. They held the lead. For the vast majority of this game, the Raptors led. And in the third quarter, I think I saw the best quarter of basketball this team has played all year. It's worth noting the Raptors won with Emmanuel Quickley. Who knew that was possible? Who knew it was possible to win with a guard who's actually really good? And I think Emmanuel Quickley has done a very, very good job since coming back of not doing too much, not over dribbling the basketball, not over holding the basketball, really just trying to fit into what's working. The Raptors were without Jamal Shed and Davion Mitchell tonight. So basically their backup point guard was who? Scottie Barnes and Bruce Brown. I mean, they did it by committee. I think Kelly Olynyk had some very, very nifty passes. I think the Raptors just did a really good job. But overall, the energy, the defense, everything worked. The ball movement was fantastic. Just at every segment of this game where you felt like the Clippers could go on a run, where the Clippers could make it a little bit, uncompetitive, the Raptors stuck in there. And then when they had a moment to blow this game open, they did. And this was okay. Maybe the end result doesn't look like a blowout. Okay, fine. It doesn't look like a blowout. The Raptors didn't blow them out. They lost. They won by 7, but it felt like a blowout, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? If you want to look at this, let me show you what I mean. Okay, so the aforementioned box score, as stated, a lot of solid contributions, right? Ochai Agbaji, 12 points, 10 points for Jacoby Walter off the bench. 18 points for Gradey Dick, super efficient splits. Emmanuel Quickley, in just 17 minutes, put up 11 points, got to the line 4 times, made all 4 of his free throws, and had 6 assists, 3 of which were very impressive. RJ Barrett, again, competing defensively and having 20 points, very impressive on 21 shots. And Scottie Barnes, right? There you go, 15 points. He scored 12 of them in the first half. It's very efficient in the first half. He was 5 for 7 in the first half. 7 rebounds, 5 assists, including 2 very, very good assists, and a lot of potential assists where Jakob Poeltl or somebody just drops the ball. But the most impressive thing is, when's the last time you saw Kawhi Leonard go 6 for 18 from the field? I mean, granted, Kawhi is still ramping back up into form, but he hasn't looked this bad often in his career, right? Ivica Zubac had a really decent game, right? He was probably the most complete nonstop player and they lost every minute without him. I mean, it's worth noting it's really difficult in a game where your team loses by 7 for you to be plus 10. That means in the minutes without Zubac on the court, which is just 8 minutes, they lost the game by 17 points. That is worth studying, right? And it's Amir Coffey, it's Terrence Mann, those lineups. Kevin Porter came off the bench, 17 points, hella talented player. If you want to look at the game cast and what I mean by this kind of felt like a blowout, when this game mattered, it was over. The Raptors had a win percentage of 98% in the third quarter. And yeah, there was a moment where the Clippers kind of cut it to like 11, 10, 9, right, in the fourth quarter. But then, boom, there come the Raptors again. This is a blowout. This is what a blowout win chart looks like. Okay. This is exactly what it looks like. It looks like it was never close down the stretch. And pretty much the Raptors were favored to win. I mean, they didn't come in favored to win. It's just a heads up to the sports bettors out there. 4.5-point underdogs at home after losing to Chicago. This is a good team. This is a really good team. Lil TM Gamer. This is a premiere. Is this a premiere or a live? You tell me. You tell me, man. You tell me. Okay. Star saying welcome back. Sorry, Ricky saying welcome back. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you. And okay. I actually, you know what's funny? It's much more pitiful to complain about the whistle when you lose. Can I complain about the whistle when we won? I don't think the Raptors got a fair shake from the refs at all tonight. Scotty Barnes was getting hacked. I think it was very worth noting. The Clippers really, really ganged up on Scotty. I mean, whatever their defensive philosophy was tonight, it was anyone but Scotty. We're going to let anybody go. We're going to let anybody score 20, 30, 40 points. We're not letting this guy off. 2, 3 bodies every time he touched. And again, it's really good defensive team. This is a really good defensive team. They are super well coached defensively. I have seen them shut the water off from the Celtics. I have seen them turn teams over. I watch a lot of Clipper games. This is a really good team. And you just beat them. Just beat them. Impressive, man. Impressive as hell. Take a look at the team stats real quick before we get into the film breakdown. Obviously, if you want to call in, you want to talk about something, you want to talk about, I mean, there's so many things to talk about today. Of course, we haven't been able to be live for the last 5-6 days. I'm very thankful to YouTube right now. Thank you, YouTube gods, if you're listening. I won't do it again. Playing that Scotty Barnes interview really cost us 5 days of lives, and I will never take lives for granted again. But yes, we are back to lives, and I'm very, very thankful because my big fear was, man, we're heading to trade week, and I know someone from the Raptors is getting traded, and we're not going to be able to do a live about it. So I'm very, very thankful that we are back to the lives. Resident One saying, we go into the playoffs, baby. Okay, I need you to say that in Kawhi's voice. Okay. All right. In terms of the team stats, the Raptors shoot 52% from 3. Oh my God. I mean, okay, some element of shooting luck is involved here, but 51.8% from the field and 52% from 3. 115 points against a team that is regularly holding teams under 100. I mean, you really do have to you have to salute the Raptors. They wanted this one. Once again, they make the mark over the 31 assists. 31 assists on 44 made field goals means you just had 13 unassisted field goals. That's impressive. 14 turnovers. I got to tell you, I've seen teams turn it over a lot more than that against the Clippers. I do think the Raptors had some really silly turnovers in tonight's game, but overall, they led by as much as 18 against a really good team. In that third quarter, they really turned it around. And if you look at the game cast, like where the Raptors really split it open, it's right there, man. 77-92. Is this real life? Are we seeing this? My goodness. It's really impressive. And yes, I do believe that Kelly Olynyk and Chris Boucher make that big a difference. I think it makes that big a difference when you support your young players like Gradey Dick and Jacoby Walter and Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett with vets who actually know how to move without the basketball. I don't think Bruce Brown had some sort of legendary game, but he's just one of those guys. Like, I don't know how to explain it to y'all other than to say that when I think about basketball, right? Let me just say this before I get to the film session. When I think about basketball overall, right? There's so many talented players in this world who are probably better than a lot of players who are in the NBA. I consider them NBA caliber players. Then there are a whole bunch of young players who are in the league that are just not NBA players. They're just not top 450 players in the league or in the world, right? They're getting an opportunity to grow into that. Guys like Bronny James, for instance, right? You have players like that and they get opportunities. And when you face the Washington Wizards, where they're routinely playing a whole bunch of guys who barely belong in the NBA, if they don't belong in the NBA at all, these guys will be getting murked in Europe. There are guys who play regular minutes for these tanking lottery teams that frankly would not get minutes for major European clubs because they're just not good enough. But because they play for NBA teams, because they have NBA contracts and they have that moniker next to them, people just ignore the reality of the situation. There are 50 to 60 really solid players over in Europe, maybe a few in Asia, maybe a few in South America that are good enough to play in the NBA but are not playing in the NBA because they're not young enough. They have baggage. They get more money overseas. They don't want to play in America. They don't want to whatever. There's a lot. Bruce Brown is an NBA player. I say this respectfully. Some players in this league are not. May not be dazzling you, but he knows how to play in this league. He understands it, right? It's very important to realize that when you have actual NBA players, the impact that they have on your overall winning, especially when you have multiple those guys on the court, RJ Barrett, plus Emmanuel Quickley, plus Bruce Brown, plus Kelly Olynyk, plus Chris Boucher. Yeah, that lineup works, man. Those are five actual NBA players who could play pretty much for every single team in the league. That matters, you know. And when you're gassing up teams like Orlando and Detroit, please look down their roster and find me the non-NBA players who are regularly getting minutes. And when those teams get depleted by injuries, as Orlando has seen, and they're forced to play players like Jet Howard and Caleb Houston, who are very talented players who may occasionally score 15, 12 points, you see the result. So when you look at the Raptors last year playing Malachi Flynn, Jaden McDaniels, when you see the bunch of rookies they played this year, those are not real NBA players. They have NBA contracts, but they're not real pros. Okay. I mean, that sounds really rude, but you get what I'm saying. When Detroit is winning right now, they're winning because they have Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr., guys like this. They are forming Tobias Harris. Yeah, no one's ranking those guys. None of those guys are all-stars, superstars, whatever. They just know how to play basketball, man. They just know how to play basketball. They know how to contain. They know how to rotate. They know how to communicate. They know how to take care of their bodies. They know how to prepare for the game every single day. It's not some wild card hit or miss shit, right? For the Raptors, for as much as I love some of their young players, Jonathan Mobo, you're not one of the top 350 players in the world. You're just not, Jamison Battle, Jacoby Walter, even Jamal Shed, Davion Mitchell. These guys are all fringy. They're all fringy. None of them are stars over in Europe. So it's a growing thing with young teams. And Masai Ujiri addressed it when he was in the steam room, when he was on the steam room show. Young players don't win in the NBA. So, what my silver lining for this game is that it wasn't really the vets who did all the heavy lifting. It wasn't just, it was Jakob and Kelly having a great game. No, man, everybody had a good game. And it's nice to see what Jacoby and Gradey and Scotty and RJ can do when they're actually surrounded by competent NBA talent. It's very valuable information for the Raptors to have ahead of the trade deadline, which, by the way, is 4 days away. Less than 4 days away. This is 3 p.m. on Thursday. That's close. That's really close. Okay, let's get to the film session here. And some good stuff. Gabe saying, should we go for the play-in? I don't think, I don't know if the Raptors are having that question. We can certainly have a talk about it, and we can certainly talk about a lot of things during the call. If y'all want to talk about the Luka trade, we can talk about that. If you want to talk about the tanking odds and all those tanking teams winning yesterday, we can talk about that. We can talk about where the Raptors go in the trade deadline, trade targets, all that stuff. Announced it on X. We back to lives today. Yes, we are. Okay. I mean, the aforementioned shaky defense starts with a play like this, right? Where just a momentary lapse in just thought, where it's like, what are you doing? Right. And this happened not just to RJ, it happens to Gradey. It even happened to Scotty tonight, where he was very lucky that Kawhi Leonard just missed that shot, but Kawhi Leonard wound up wide open. Right. Okay. Great effort, I say, from RJ Barrett. There was a lot of great effort plays tonight. Watch him just really digging into Kawhi Leonard, right? Now, again, RJ was a Knick when the Raptors won a championship with Kawhi Leonard, but you better believe he watched those games. There's a reverence when you've looked up to Kawhi to some extent. You know, you're a star player in the league, you're a star wing. You've looked at him, you've admired him from a distance. You've certainly, wondered what it would be like to play him, and to take that opportunity very seriously was very commendable for RJ Barrett. All right. I said Kawhi Leonard called and he wants his shot package back. Scotty Barnes here. Look at how the Clippers are guarding him. There's one defender. Here comes second defender. Like, you just constantly had like you look at this shot and you're just like, 2 years ago, there's no chance in hell, one, any team in the world is guarding him like this. So he's done something to be guarded like this. And number two, I don't think he takes this shot if he's guarded like this 2 years ago. He's passing this out, but now he's confident and he's going to take it and he's going to make it, which was very impressive. It's good to see, man. Again, I said Toronto is scoring at will against the second best defense in the NBA. Look at this beautiful cut and this amazing dime by Emmanuel Quickly. Again, just this is just beautiful basketball. Really, it just is. Okay. I said Scotty Barnes jump shooting masterclass continues. Yo, this is contested. I just want to be clear. This is not an easy shot. Look at the release. That's a 7-footer out there with I feel like a Leo Routens. That's a 7-footer out there with a 7'4" wingspan in your face, doing a really good job. He basically is touching his hand, and Scotty is fading away, and he just nails it. And then right after that, gets Kawhi isolated at the top. Little Kelly screen. Kawhi goes under. And Kevin Porter Jr. might not realize that Scotty Barnes wanted to hit those today. He hit 2 in the first half. So really nice play there. We will talk about the Dallas Mavericks, but the Dallas Mavericks got smoked by the Cleveland Cavaliers. They gave up 91 points in the first half. Unbelievable. Okay. Again, it helps to have bigs who can pass the ball and really make great decisions in the middle of the court. Here, Kevin Porter Jr. closes out. Gradey kills his dribble. And he's going to make a little pass. And then what did he tell you when you make the pass? Cut. And Spooky Ghost Rider saying 91 points. That's not a typo, bro. They scored 91 points in the first half. Okay. Beautiful finish. Gradey Dick. Just thought he was very comfortable tonight. Again, James Harden. A little bit of a pylon defensively. Scotty Barnes exploits it. Boom. Nails that 3 right over. Jakob Poeltl has been so much better defending the rim over the last couple of weeks. Here, he's going to get beat off the dribble, and he's going to recover. And this is a dunk if I ever saw one. And he blocks it clean, falling over in the process. That was just sick, man. That was absolutely sick. At the end of the first half, it's 58-61. Raptors leaking a little bit of oil. They led by as much as 7-8. And the Clippers have pretty much just caught back up. And here go the Raptors. And RJ Barrett, backs off just a little too much, expecting the drive with 4.5 seconds. And here, Amir Coffey just goes early. I don't know if this is a trend around the league, but I'm consistently seeing teams that are not taking the final shot. Like the Raptors do it all the time. Maybe there's some math that has shown that if you let the clock milk out to the final second, that you're less efficient. So now teams are just like, okay, we're going to make the other team operate with 4 or 5 seconds. We're going to take a good shot. The second a good shot becomes available, we're just going to take it. We're not going to milk it to try and defend the possession. I get it. I absolutely get it. But that was frustrating. At the half, the Raptors were shooting 46.7% from three. And I got to tell you, I thought there's no way in hell the Clippers are going to let them shoot 46.7% in the second half. Instead, the Clippers let them shoot damn near 60% in the second half, and the Raptors end up closing the game 52% from three. I mean, that's just unbelievable, right? The Raptors were making their free throws. Very encouraging sign because the Raptors were not making their free throws in the last game. And yeah, man, I mean, this was a really like a wire to wire gut check win. And just around the league at the half at that point, to anyone who doesn't believe that the Cavaliers were actually up by that much. Now, granted, the Mavericks ended up closing the distance a little bit in the second half as the Cavaliers inevitably let their foot off the gas and probably played their third stringers. But it's worth noting, like this was a masterclass dominance by the Cleveland Cavaliers of not playing down to their opponent. Okay, look at this foul, like the number of fouls that this is on Scotty. First of all, he gets mugged, right, by Kawhi over here twice. And then here, I mean, you can't put a hand on the shooter as they're going up. Like Scotty yelled out, "Can I get a foul?" And boom, like this is a guy who shoots 76%. I mean, look, that's a foul, man. He's having to hide his face because y'all poking his face. And look at Kawhi's arm on his arm. How the hell is that not a foul? And then now he finally gets called. And then it's finally a foul. And he screams, "Thank you." Jay saying, "Sorry, just joined. Anyone know what happened to IQ?" He's on a minutes restriction. So you'll notice that he's pretty much being held under 20 minutes every single game. All righty. Okay. This is such an underrated play, man. Look at this beautiful decision making. I've been talking about RJ Barrett having a much improved defensive effort over the last week and a half, but I've been talking about him being a better passer all year. And this is one of those plays where he's going to make a really quick decision within the course of the offense. Now, here, the Raptors work on this all the time. All the time. What do we do when we get a 2-on-1, right? Is we find the open man because there's someone open. What do you do when you get 3-on-2? You find the open man. So here, RJ, within the course of all the 2-on-2, 2-on-1 drills, all the 3-on-3, all the 3-on-2 drills that the Raptors do in the play groups, this is what it results in. Quick decision making. Scotty finds the advantage here, which is RJ, right? Boom. Skips it over. And RJ, without projecting, without holding, drops this, knowing James Harden is not going to contest. And Jakob Poeltl gets a dunk. It's such an underrated play, man. Such an underrated play. And just look at how the Raptors were dominating. This caps a 12-2 run. Ochai passing to RJ. RJ with the slam and the big scream, right? And then we get Grady Dick with one of his many jams of the night. I think that's why, it's possible to get 18 points and you're not really all that loud about it. Grady had a very loud 18 points today. Every point was impactful. LeBron James quote, 2 points is not 2 points. Well, this certainly was not 2 points. 2 points on the and one. You're right in the game. And a shot like this really, it feels different, right? Because you take James Harden, who, again, not a good defender, but in the post, James Harden's not bad. He's really not bad. He's very strong. He's got a low center of gravity. He guards well here. He's got a little bit of length to contest this. This is not a foregone conclusion that Scotty has to score this. But I think that was very, very good concentration on Scotty's part. This, Jacoby Walter, for the second straight game, does this where he goes coast to coast and just says, "Someone stop me. I'm going right to the basket. Who's coming with me?" And nobody was coming with him. And when I said that the Clippers lost their minutes without Zubas by 17 and 8 minutes, those were 2 of those minutes. Now here, such a beautiful pass here, right? Kelly Olynyk, such a luxury to have a 6'11", basically a point guard at the top of the floor. You're going to see this here. Look at how quickly he reads this. Head's always up. doesn't kill his dribble, with his left hand, just whips this across to Ochai, one of his 5 made field goals. Great stuff. Just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful process. Yeah, I said Gradey called game. Yo, this game, 7 minutes to go. Kawhi Leonard's on the other team. James Harden's on the other team. You clearly have to give them some benefit as the much better team coming into the situation. They've played a lot of close games. They played a lot of big games. Those two are very, very hard to stop for the Raptors. Clearly, even a 10-point game, a 10-point game with 7 minutes is not safe playing against this team. And here, it just felt like RJ Barrett passing to Gradey Dick, and it just broke it open. But that was just a first of what would become 3 straight passes that led to amazing results. The second pass in that string of sequence was RJ Barrett passing across the corner with his left hand. Okay, left hand merchant with his left hand to Chris Boucher. Who makes the shot? Who makes the shot? And during this sequence, it's worth noting that the Raptors, I believe it was RJ Barrett, put Kawhi Leonard at the line. Kawhi Leonard bricks 2 straight. And then right after that, what do you know? Passing is infectious. Here's Gradey Dick with a beautiful no-look to Jacoby Walter, who makes the 3. Davion Mitchell, very, very excited. Davion was very animated during this game, supporting his teammates. The aforementioned fall for RJ Barrett, this was very scary to watch live, right? He stayed down for a long time. The Raptors fouled on the other end, but just a really tough, you just watch how his head kind of, okay, so he lands on his back and then the head slams back. So it's just how it hit. I was very surprised to see him stay in the game. That feels like a concussion protocol situation, right? And then just to give the fans in attendance who haven't had a lot to cheer about this year, a little bit of something to get really excited about. Watch this play from Scotty Magic to the cutting Gradey Dick. All of this created, of course, by Jakob Poeltl preoccupying with the roll. And here, Gradey Dick with the reverse jam. Don't tell me he doesn't have hops. And then this one, Scotty's going to find another cutter. Again, they're going to guard him this way. They're going to guard him, 23, 24 feet from the basket, 30 feet from the basket. He is going to dissect them. And here, once again, you have Jakob rolling here. So if Zubac had managed to recover, it's a simple pass to Jakob Poeltl. It all starts with that one advantage. And then how quickly do you milk it? How do you extend it? The goal of anything, the goal of any offense is to get this shot right here. This shot right here. And this shot, like this shot right here. And this shot right here is the goal of pretty much any offense. You want dunks. You want dunks. So if y'all have ever asked yourselves, why do teams shoot so many threes? It's because they want dunks. It sounds counterintuitive, but it's true. If you have shooters all around, if you have shooters spread around the court, what can you do? You can open up the paint for these kind of cuts. You can open up the paint for drives. And it's really important that the Raptors continue this process that they're on. Now, I think this begs a lot of questions, right? A game like this is a real statement game. Clan Holmes with a super chat, thank you very much, saying building a plus relationship with the ref for players. Please clarify. I don't entirely know what that pertains to. Now I feel like Ron reading the super chat a little bit late. Does it pertain to something? Does anyone want to help me out with what Clan Holmes meant? Okay. Clearly, a lot of people want to talk about the Luka trade. We're going to get into that. I don't want Luka Doncic mania to take over what is probably the most impressive game of the season. Is it fair to say? Is it fair to say that this and I would say this and the Celtics wins are the most impressive wins of the season. If you're the Raptors, I think you've seen a lot of positives this year. A lot of positives. Okay. Okay. Sure. Yeah. Jack saying RJ has some nasty falls at least once a game and gets up like nothing happened. Bro, he's built very, very solid. So, yes, again, we will talk about the Luka stuff. We're about 30 minutes in. Let's, give this game 5 more minutes of our time, and then we'll turn our attention over to the trade deadline and what the Raptors can do and what the Luka Doncic trade potentially means. And the very fact that we're calling it the Luka trade and not the Luka AD trade should probably give you some insight into how I feel about this. But to those of you who watched the video last night at 2:30 in the morning, salute to you. You're the real troopers. You the real MVP, as KD liked to say. Clearly, I have some thoughts about that. But throughout the day, we've heard a lot more, and I think maybe know a little bit more about how that deal went down. But overall, this is a really impressive win for the Raptors. I mean, you play together, you play the right way, you get rewarded. Some nights your shot's not going to hit like this, but the Raptors are hanging their hat on something that they can control, which is their defense. Night after night, this is a team that goes out and works hard. Danny Green was on the broadcast today. First thing he said, the Raptors work hard. Every person that I've heard talk about the Raptors this year, from a rival team to rival scouts, they play hard. They play hard. They play hard. It's only ever since the Raptors found out they were the number one defense, they've almost been addicted to that idea of keeping that moniker. They've been addicted to keeping that reputation as one of the better defenses in the NBA. And I think they're very much on, I think they're on their path to becoming a top 15 defense. I don't know if top five, top three, top two, whatever is sustainable at all. I don't think they have the personnel for it yet. But I do think that a top five, top 10, top 15 defense is possible, just because I think that all of these players and all of this, process the Raptors have been going on, the development, some of their youth, I think just having some of these athletes like a Jacoby Walter, I think this might have been Jacoby's most complete game since the Houston game, in which he had 27 points in that start where he had, the first 14 points for the Raptors and then kind of cooled off. I think this is the second most impressive game that Jacoby's had tonight. I thought he was so good. And I think he's had such encouraging moments. It's also worth noting the Raptors 905 are number one in standings. Number one, right? So there's a lot of winning going on with this team. And yet the prevailing conversation around this team is why aren't they losing more? And I understand that. So we'll talk about that at some point too. But I just think that you take a win like this, you bottle it up as an organization, and you say, can we beat Chicago in the play-in? Can we beat Atlanta with the way they're sputtering? Looking around at the East right now, you have to look at the economy of what is actually happening, right? Now, of course, the Raptors are fresh off of getting their butts kicked by Chicago, and that wasn't a very encouraging game. But it doesn't remove how much the Raptors have won over the last 10 to 12 games. They've won 8 games. Am I correct on that? Or 7 games? Hold on, let's pull this up. The Raptors have won. Okay, so they had this little fluky stretch here. I don't call it fluky stretch. They had a good stretch of games here, right? Monday, November 18th to December 3rd, where they won 5 games out of 8. That was a really positive stretch. They beat Miami, Indiana, New Orleans, Minnesota, and Indiana. So, okay, cool. You've shown you're capable of beating Indiana. Scotty had 35 points in that final game. They beat Indiana. I don't think Scotty played in the first game. They beat Indiana, and RJ had 39. So you've shown that at least if you were going to face Indiana, that you're confident in yourselves that you could compete. Then the Raptors had this entire stretch of games where the only win was against Brooklyn, and it really sank them. But then starting with that Golden State win right here on January 13th, everyone talks about the Raptors have had such a great January, such a great January. I mean, technically, they've had a great January since January 13th, in which they've been one of the best teams in the league. Yeah, sure, you can talk about the Washingtons and the New Orleans. They're not good. Atlanta's lost 6 straight. Fine. Orlando was without their guy. But you beat Golden State. You beat Boston. You didn't just beat Atlanta. You beat Atlanta twice on the road. You didn't just beat Washington, you blew the shit out of Washington. So, like, you held them to 82 points. I'm inclined to think Washington hasn't scored 82 points since. That's a team that can score. So there's a lot of positives here, right? Every single night you're having a really positive contribution come up out of nowhere. And to beat the Clippers and to beat the Boston Celtics both times at home, you're giving your fans something to cheer about, right? Next up, 2 days from now, Tuesday night, you got the New York Knicks. And then after that, just the day before the trade deadline, you got the Memphis Grizzlies. Do the Raptors right now feel like they're fighting for a right to survive, fighting for a right to stay together? You know, they talk about, unaliving as a sociological concept. And they say that there are two things that would lead someone to do that: a lack of social integration or an excess of social integration. If you think of somebody who does that for, potentially making a protest for for their country, or perhaps, going to war for their country, something like that. Well, that is an excess of patriotism, nationalism, pride, togetherness, societal, whatever. When you think of somebody who dives in front of somebody and takes a bullet, that is an excess. But then there are people who are completely isolated from societies. They have nobody and they have nothing. And those people also do the same thing. What you're seeing with the Toronto Raptors right now, a very weird transition and probably not going to make sense to anyone but me when I say that, is that you're seeing a team that's very together, that knows that if they do not show the front office that they can win, they're going to be split apart. They're going to be torn apart. And they're playing for each other. And this is the business of the NBA. You don't produce, you get traded. You don't produce, you get booted from the league. This is a results organization, right? This is a results based thing. And so if you're the Toronto Raptors right now, how far away are you right now? I think we need to really think about that. How far are you from the other side of it? Because I think you could probably sell yourself on the idea that there are probably more sellers right now than buyers, because the buyers can't buy, right? It's the weirdest thing. This cap restriction of the CBA, the new CBA, what it's done is it's taken all these teams that would otherwise be buying and told them you can't buy. And so now everyone's trying to sell, but there's really not a lot of players. There's not a lot of teams to sell to. So if you're the Toronto Raptors and you're looking to sell on Kelly, Boucher, Bruce, you're looking to sell these players. Where are your buyers? The teams that need them are capped out. They're very, very narrowly capped out. A lot of them have, traded away so many picks. So if you're the Toronto Raptors right now, you're like, shoot, if we actually wanted to buy, we can get an all-star for jack shit right now. If we actually wanted to buy, we could be a playoff team, make all that revenue. Look, I remember 2 years ago very clearly. I wanted the Raptors to pull it apart at the trade deadline. They didn't. I wanted them to pull it apart before the season started last year. No, they got to roll with Pascal. When Fred left, I was like, okay, let Jakob walk. Let this just be a rebuild. Let's tank, whatever. But the draft wasn't very good, so you don't want to lose Jakob for nothing. So, okay, fine. You sign him. You overpay him a little bit. You bring him back. But then you bring in Dennis Schroeder, and I'm like, what now? Why? Why are we doing this, right? You trade Pascal Siakam for, you trade OG not for a super pick heavy package. You could have gotten 3 first-round picks or 4 first-round picks for OG. Instead, you wanted real players now that you could build with. And it kind of made you think, do the Raptors not want to be that type of team that has 8, 9, 10 first-round picks to play with? Do they just prefer to be a team that's just perpetually in the middle, like a Chicago Bulls, right? And the Raptors do have a lot of options to buy right now. There's so many good players who are available. I mean, I'm saying good players, not great players. There's obviously great players who are available that you probably won't get right now. De'Aaron Fox, right, is probably a great player you're not going to get. Jimmy Butler is a great player that you probably don't want to get, right? Bradley Beal's not a great player anymore. Zach LaVine's not a great player, but I mean, Zach LaVine's up there. He's pretty good. He would help a lot. I mean, I guess. But then there's players like Cameron Johnson who are still available. And maybe the teams that could use him most right now, like contenders, don't have the picks to really trade for him, right? They've depleted their draft assets. A lot of the contenders or top end teams right now, or they're very expensive. They're capped out in the second apron. And so when I look at teams like the Nets, when I look at teams like Washington, when I look at teams like Charlotte, I'm like, damn, there's some pieces on these teams. When I look at a team like Sacramento, I'm like, damn, there are some pieces on this team. If they are so desperate to make to make the playoffs, I mean, we could technically sell to them. We could also buy. And you look at a team that you could buy from. Let's think about it. You could buy from the Wizards. They don't have a lot to sell though. You'd have to really, really, really sell yourself on Kyle Kuzma, but I don't think that's going to happen. You could buy from the Charlotte Hornets. Once again, a little bit unsure about what you want to buy given what they've already sold. They already got rid of PJ Tucker last year. They got rid of Nick Richards. They're not getting rid of Mark Williams. I'm not really sure what there's left to buy on that team that you really want. Okay. The Brooklyn Nets have a lot to sell. Nick Claxton would be very helpful here. Very helpful. Cam Johnson will be very helpful here. Cam Thomas would be interesting as a spark plug, type of guy off the bench. Be very interesting, right? The Chicago Bulls, Lonzo Ball, Patrick Williams, that's pretty much Dalen Terry. That's pretty much what you're looking at. The Atlanta Hawks are actually looking to buy. That's one of those teams that's actually looking to buy right now because they just lost Jalen Johnson for the season. The Orlando Magic are looking to buy. The Detroit Pistons are looking to buy. The Miami Heat are looking to exchange. The Indiana Pacers are looking to buy. The Milwaukee Bucks are looking to upgrade. The Knicks are pretty capped out. They're hamstrung in the sense that they are cap locked at the second apron. They're not a second apron team per se, but they are hard capped at the second apron. Boston is not going to have anything meaningful to offer, and the Cleveland Cavaliers are not really a viable trade option. So really, you're taking a look at the Utah Jazz, the New Orleans Pelicans, the Portland Trailblazers. The Spurs are actually looking to buy right now. The funniest thing is, actually, there are a lot of buyers in this league. So but there are some sellers here. And if the Raptors were to convert themselves into buyers, they have a lot of what those sellers might be looking for. Cap relief, potentially, picks, potentially, young players, potentially, right? Who could make a more competitive offer for Brandon Ingram right now than the Raptors? It's worth thinking about. Who could do it? Which team out there can make a really a more competitive offer? I mean, yeah, the OKC Thunder, but they're not going to. The Houston Rockets, but they're not going to. Which team? You want that kind of upgrade? Carvin Chung saying, wow, great to have the live back again, Rob. Yeah, man. Burp Z Derps Burner saying, sell and buy the Masai way. Just take Andrew Wiggins if we can get him for peanuts. Well, it's worth noting that I don't think, and when I say the Golden State Warriors are not sellers right now, it's largely because of Steph Curry. They are not going to be able to sell Steph Curry on, hey, we just traded a pretty competent two-way wing for Bruce Brown. That's going to be a really hard thing to sell. Is Clax better than Yak? I don't know if he's better than Jakob, but he's younger than Jakob. He's different than Jakob. If the trade happens, sure, will be Butler or Levine, though. You think the Raptors would trade for Jimmy Butler? Nice one saying, whatever picks Lakers have for Yak. It's not just going to be for Yak. Because of how the Lakers cap situation is structured, you have to take on Rui Hachimura in that deal. So you're taking on a negative asset. No. I think a player who probably should be very much shopped and could help a lot of teams, I think you need to look at Portland, man. I really do. I think you need to look at Portland, Denny Avdia, Jeremy Grant, potentially Rob Williams. Those are three really good players that could be potentially, I don't want to say really good players. Anthony Simons as well. Cam Johnson would be a blessing. And he would really fit in. I think if you're the Raptors, you just have to kind of look around and say, what are we giving up at this point? Now, I've made it pretty clear that I would absolutely 100% prior to the start of the season have traded for Cam Johnson. I love that dude. I think he is just so good. Right now, it's a little bit harder to sell because if I'm being honest, I'm a little bit still torn about should the Raptors tank or not. There's still some element of me doing that. If the Raptors could get Brandon Ingram for scraps because the New Orleans Pelicans are so desperate, I just don't understand why New Orleans does that. What does New Orleans benefit from trading Brandon Ingram for expiring contracts? He himself is an expiring contract. You would have to get back some sort of pick equity. You're giving up the most talented player in the deal and you don't get any picks back. You just get cap relief, which, oh, by the way, the player is already expiring. What benefit is there? It's not like BI has signed some 6-year deal or 5-year deal where, the Pelicans are like, hey, this is going to help us with our cap. No, man. So you're going to have to actually give up a young player or a player of somewhat comparable value to him. And I think that conversation is going to start with RJ Barrett. And you watch tonight and you're like, man, why would we do that? Why would we trade the younger, healthier, cheaper asset for Brandon Ingram? Can I just ask y'all to tell me what the hell? To those people saying, no, we got to trade for Brandon Ingram. If you're just looking at talent, cool. But when talent is not healthy, that doesn't mean a lot to me. Now, what I saw in the last game was a lack of talent. What I see in this game is a benefit of process. What I see is just a team that is consistently learning to play together, developing, and I think that they're going to be really very good next year. I think the Raptors can be very good next year. Six Out Puzzle saying, I don't know how I feel about BI. Brandon Ingram is a fantastic talent. He's a fantastic talent. He is a massive upgrade over any isolation scorer you have on this team. He's efficient. He is a better defender, regardless of recent play by RJ Barrett. I think he's a better defender than RJ Barrett. He's pretty young, right? We the North saying he makes 0 sense. Well, when you're one of the worst isolation scoring teams in the league, one of the best isolation scorers in the league, one of the most talented isolation scorers in the league, makes a hell of a lot of sense. And far too many people get locked into the numbers, right? To the point where they don't even watch the games. Isolation scoring is a very valuable thing. Late clock situations, when you need 2 points, Brandon Ingram can get his own shot whenever he wants. That is a valuable skill set. Okay. He doesn't do all the other stuff. He doesn't stay as healthy as you would like him to. He's not the greatest defender. Okay, cool. He's not a great 3-point shooter. Also a problem, right? When you're talking about pairing him with Scotty Barnes, you want a 3-point shooter, right? Is BI closer to Gradey defensively or Scotty? He's closer to Gradey, but he's much better than Gradey. Bueno Kitty saying, what does RJ's next contract look like versus BI's next contract? Well, Brandon Ingram, if you believe the reports, has been looking for a max contract. Okay. I don't think RJ Barrett gets a max contract. I think they'll both be south of 35 million. JJ1 saying Scotty needs to up his scoring. Why did you lose a bet? I don't like in tonight's game, he scored when he needed to. He was very opportunistic. The Raptors went on a huge run when he was on the bench. I don't think he needed to force the issue. It's also worth noting that, in the first quarter, he certainly was limping. He had 5-6 straight possessions up and down the court where he's trying to walk off, probably a little bit of an ankle sprain or, something of that sort. He hasn't been right the last 2 games. He hasn't been right, but he's trying. And what if the Lakers came knocking for Gradey and Jakob for Reeves? You taking it? No. No, not at all. I like Austin Reeves. I'm not sure I like him more than Gradey Dick. That's a very probably unpopular opinion. I think Austin Reeves next to Scotty Barnes would be beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful deal. I think what they need super a lot right now is what the Raptors have, which is competent big depth, right? But they really need a starting center so badly, right? So badly. Why am I giving them Jakob Poeltl though? Like I don't think anyone wants to help the Lakers right now, to be honest. I think the league is looking around. I think a lot of people are pissed off that the Lakers just got Luka Doncic as a gift. And when the league is pissed off, people revolt. So a lot of teams are going to look at the Lakers right now and they're going to say, we're not helping you. You imbalanced your roster. You're going to pay us a lot of money. You're going to pay us a lot of, you're going to make a very lopsided and bad deal for yourself if you're going to want to rebalance this roster. Pete Carter saying, I think New Orleans trades Ingram for Butler if they can. That feels like a Miami move. Yes, I think Miami would be perfectly fine. I just don't understand why New Orleans would want Jimmy Butler. They're looking for athletic bigs to replace the AD hole. They're not going to replace AD. They're not going to replace Anthony Davis. I want to be clear. Like one of my biggest gripes with this entire deal. Okay, we can talk about the deal. It feels very obvious to me that a lot of people want to talk about the deal. If you want to call in. The link is in the description. I would love to have a conversation about this. I mean, personally, we haven't had live shows in 5 days. And the worst part about not having lives was no callers. So if you missed it because you just tuned into the lives and you didn't want to tune into the videos, I would record these videos and then I would post them as a premiere. So not only did I post it, not only would I edit it, then I would watch it. Yesterday, I think yesterday or the day before when I was watching one of the videos, I actually fell asleep while I was in the live. So that's funny. I got to be one of you guys, falling asleep to these lives at, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock at night. That was kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, it's really great to have lives back and one of the biggest reasons is there were no call-ins on those shows. But yeah, let's talk about it. Hang on one sec. So to those of you who missed it, let me share something with you. This was just in case you didn't see this.
Maybe this is what I need in order for me to get to where I'm trying to go. Maybe
Luka ain't never leaving Dallas, y'all. Will we stop this, please? He's staying in Dallas. It's not.
I mean, we don't know. We don't know what the future brings. Chill. Maybe
he ain't going to Miami. I can tell you that. I can tell you where Luka's going if you want to know.
You just said he ain't leaving Dallas.
Chicago.
100%. Hell no.
So it started like that. Can't wait for the next time I'm on PC, which I think is going to be Wednesday. It's going to be funny for sure. Me and Swipe are going to have a fun conversation about that. Bueno Kitty with the super chat saying Rob Stradamus is back. Luka to Chicago. What? Explorer C saying this last night. No, we talked about this on Friday. We literally brought this up on Friday on the panel. I think the one biggest winner of this trade is Christian Koloko. I think Luka is going to make Christian Koloko and Jackson Hayes so much better. Military Man saying this still doesn't feel real. I think the Lakers will need time to build chemistry, but I also think the Mavs can win a chip this year now that AD is back at the 4 and surrounded by shooters and defense. Okay, so I guess we need to talk about this. This deal was tough. Okay. Now I want to be clear about something. I'm victory lapping a little bit because I felt that Luka had really strong connections to the Lakers. At no point would I have believed you if you told me what they got back for him or the fact that the deal was happening 4 days before this trade deadline. This is the type of move that does not happen in the NBA. Does not happen at all. Okay. Should not happen. Does not happen. Okay. And it doesn't happen because the value that a player like Luka Doncic brings is so much greater than what you could ever get back for him. People travel from all around the world to watch Luka play. Dallas tourism is at least partially carried by the fact that there's so many visitors who come to watch Luka play a home game in Dallas. I don't think people understand what a big deal this guy is, but I've studied the numbers. I know what a big deal he is. He is effectively the face of the NBA. He is one of the 3 most marketable players in the NBA. He is a huge deal. I don't know how to put it into scale or to put it into perspective for you just what a big deal this guy is. He's not quite LeBron, okay? He's not quite Kobe, but he's the next best thing. He's right up there. To trade a player like this typically requires the king's ransom type of offer. And now Anthony Davis, a lot of people are sort of shitting on this deal because I don't think people understand how good Anthony Davis is. So it's weird. Like, there's so many places to start this conversation, but let's just start with, I didn't think this deal was happening now, and I certainly would not have believed that this deal was going to happen for, at least till this summer. I thought, because I'd heard some rumblings about Luka wanting to be in Los Angeles, Nike, the connections. There's so many connections here. Consider the connections that are available. This is what we know. Okay. Luka has a strong connection with LeBron. Luka has a connection with Nike. It's part of the Jordan brand, if you know that, right? Luka also has a connection with JJ Redick. Right? Anthony Davis, on the other hand, has a connection with Nico Harrison. He has a connection with Jason Kidd, and he has a connection with Jared Dudley, ex-teammates. Okay. So then you consider the agent connection. You consider the fact that right now, Brian Windhorst and all these people are trying to tell us that, oh, LeBron was caught off guard. Anthony Davis was caught off guard. Luka didn't demand a trade. Luka didn't. Oh, come on, man. Read the tea leaves. Stop believing and buying the bullshit. Okay? If you genuinely think that the Dallas Mavericks have never had a conversation about Luka Doncic, about his plans going into this summer, going into free agency, you're crazy. These conversations happen all the time. They happen all the time. And if you're the Dallas Mavericks right now, the narrative right now that they want everyone to believe is that Luka is lazy, that Luka is a bad, he doesn't take his career seriously, he doesn't take his diet seriously, that he's allegedly 270 pounds, that right now they don't believe they can win with him. They don't believe that they can play with a player, that they can win with a player that is so bad defensively. They don't believe that they can build a team around a player who really drags possessions and plays such a heliocentric style of basketball. And they don't believe that he's worth the $345 million. Okay. That's what they want you to believe. What I want you to think about is the connection of Nico Harrison to the Nike organization. It's a former Nike executive, man. How many times are the Los Angeles Lakers going to fleece the league in the exact same way before people realize that this team basically has a deal with the devil? Every single marketing agency, every ad agency, every client is wanting to push their client. Every agent is trying to push their clients to big markets. There's no bigger market than the superstar on the Los Angeles Lakers. Everyone's talking about, oh my God, he's going to lose so much money. Can't sign the Supermax now. Oh my God, state income tax. Yo, Luka's not me and Luka's not you. Okay. There are ways around this. Clearly, there's a lot of ways around the taxes. And number 2, the off-court money that he is going to make. And if you are under the impression that you are witnessing the end of Luka Doncic, if you think that this dude is about to fade into obscurity like Zion or Ben Simmons, if you really think that, man, you have not been paying attention. He is not about to fade into nothing. This is a very competitive dude. Does he have some really bad habits that I've heard about? Hell yeah, he does. Yeah, Michael Jordan used to smoke cigars and gamble until 4 a.m. Okay. These are, like, I hate to say it, there's certain people who are kind of above the normal thing. Maybe there's a Raptors podcaster out there who's like, oh yeah, Luka being out of shape. That's just like when I was out of shape. It's like, shut up. You're not him. That's not you. We don't operate. Like, I hate to say it, there's special rules for certain people in society, and he's one of them. Okay? Ryan Russillo said it best. He could be smoking cigarettes, bringing the basketball up the court, and I would still give that guy a supermax. That is the point. Okay? He is 25 years old. Explore Core saying he's 25 years old, he can get away with it for now. What I'm saying is this deal reeks of conspiracy to the point where Shams Charania reported it and everyone thought it was fake. He had to reiterate, not hacked, 100% real, 1000% real. Everyone thought it was NBA Centel or something. That's how you know it's a bad deal. Okay? Luka should go for 2 Anthony Davises. That's the fair exchange. I actually don't even think it's worth it at that point. That's not shade on Anthony Davis. That's me telling you what the gap is between a top 3 player who's 25 years old and a top 6-7 player who's 31 years old. They both have injury concerns. If you're arguing, Anthony Davis has more serious injury concerns. Now, Nico Harrison has wanted Anthony Davis in Dallas for a really long time. Fine. Zal 123. Rob, tonight was my first basketball game live. Do you remember your first? Yes, I remember my first. I think it was 1992, and it was the New Jersey Nets. I think it was 92. It was the Nets game. Do you think Luka going to stay a Laker for the rest of his life? Yeah, I think he'll be there for a long time. My point is, look, the Lakers were gifted Shaquille O'Neal. They knew he was coming. Orlando knew he was coming. Everyone knew he was coming. They got him. They didn't have to do anything to get him. They got him. Okay? Kobe Bryant forced his way to the Los Angeles Lakers. Dared teams to draft him. Didn't want to be drafted. Wanted to be drafted by the Lakers. Okay. Right? Pau Gasol. Do you know the reaction when Pau Gasol got traded to the Los Angeles Lakers? We didn't know he was available. Literally every GM was like, we don't know he was available. What happened here? What? So that's 3. That's 3 players who are some of the 100 greatest players of all time have just magically ended up on the Lakers. And then, the Lakers are really, really bad. They can't do anything right. They draft D'Angelo Russell. They draft bust after bust after bust. They draft Julius Randle. They can't make it work around the legacy, aging Kobe. Pau Gasol leaves, goes to Chicago, etc. And then, what do you know? Kobe retires, and guess who's there? LeBron James. A few years later, LeBron James is there. They mess up on the Lonzo pick. They trade Lonzo, whatever. Okay, LeBron comes in, clear house, and here's Anthony Davis, and he's a clutch client, and he's forcing his way to the Lakers. And then you get 2 more of the 75 greatest players of all time. And now they're on the Lakers, and you win a championship in the bubble, nonetheless. And then you probably screw up a lot of, moves, roster moves. Rob Pelinka, Magic Johnson, their credibility. The Lakers organization is run like it's run like a mom and pop store, from what I've heard. They're not a good organization. They're not. They don't run like, I'll tell you, there's like 15 to 18 organizations in the NBA that run a tighter ship than that team. But they just keep getting stars, man, because that's the LA market, that's the cachet, that's the brand. You as a Laker can make more money than you as anything else. It's just the truth. If Scotty Barnes at some point wants to make the most money, the number one thing that he would do is force his way to the Lakers. Any star in the league. That's why Kawhi going to the Clippers is so weird, because it's like you cost yourself such a marketing opportunity by not being a Laker. I mean, kudos to Kawhi, regardless. I would have preferred he stayed in Toronto. But that's kind of my point here is, how many times can they do this? And it's just because all the powers that be, all the power brokers in the NBA, they're always trying to push. And by the way, I completely ignored the part where the Lakers had pretty much acquired Chris Paul, right? One of the greatest players of all time, another top 75 guy. Like, how many more times are we going to watch this happen and just be like, oh, this is just a team that's really lucky? Well, they get lucky a lot, man. They get lucky every 5 years like clockwork. And now, oh my God, Luka Doncic forced his way to the Lakers. Surprised. Very surprised. Not surprised. And when I said yeah, he could. Yes, he could. Yes, he could. Maybe he could. Maybe he could. And I said the Lakers, it was with that in mind, is that I know that he's a fan of the Lakers. I've known this since he was 16 years old. Okay. He's a fan of Kobe. He's a fan of LeBron. It just makes sense, man. It just makes sense. It just makes sense. Just like, I mean, those early childhood memories, you're not just going to ignore those, right? When Scotty Barnes tells you that he grew up watching Magic Johnson and idolizing Kobe, like what jersey do you think he wore in his, 8-year-old fantasy of Scotty Barnes as a point guard in the NBA? Like what do you think he was imagining? You think he was imagining himself as a Raptor, as a Magic, as a Buck? No, he was imagining himself as a Laker. This is what success breeds. It breeds copycats. It breeds followers. If the Raptors, right now, RJ is very proud to play for the Raptors, right? It's not just because he's from Toronto. It's because he came up during one of the most successful times in Raptors history. And I'm pretty sure when RJ was shooting jump shots with his dad in an open gym, he was dreaming about being a Raptor, right? Kevin Durant once said that he wanted to be a Raptor. Why? Vince Carter, bro. Vince Carter. You know what I wanted to be when I was growing up, and I thought I might become 6'6"? I wanted to be a Bull. I wanted to play on the Chicago Bulls. So 12-year-old Rob wanted to be a Chicago Bull or a New York Knick. Those are the two teams that I wanted to play for. Why? Hometown team, Knicks, number one, wanted to play at the Garden, wanted to play like, John Starks, Latrell Sprewell, Allen Houston. Bulls, because of Michael Jordan. Every single time I would build myself up in NBA 2K, it was always as number 23 Chicago Bulls. Every time. That was the dream. So when you're dominating, when your organization dominates, you build a following. You build a following. You know one team that almost no kid in the 90s ever wanted to play for, no one ever grew up wanting to play for? The Clippers. The Clippers. The Hornets. The Hornets were all right for a bit, but I mean, the Grizzlies. Like, these are not teams that have ever achieved that level of upper echelon dominance in the market. Do you know what I mean? So now, if you're the Raptors, you're looking at this from that perspective. You're like, how do we make people want to be here? How do we make Canadian kids, at least, dream of coming here? You know who else might have envisioned being a Raptor when he was growing up? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Maybe, right? These things matter. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think Luka imagined himself being a Laker. And now he is one. And that's what all that dominance and all those moments, you know what I mean? I was listening to somebody the other day because we were talking about the Pendance Film Festival. Shout out to the Pendance Film Festival coming up February 27th, March 2nd. Tickets, links, passes in the description. But someone was saying, when I watch a movie, I don't think about anything but the scenes. It's not like the plot, the characters, whatever. I'm just the moments. I'm in the moments. When Darth Vader says what he says, when Chief Brody sees what he sees, when Ian Malcolm sees the Brontosaurus for the first time in Jurassic Park, the plot is irrelevant. It's the moment that matters. When Kobe Bryant hugged Shaquille O'Neal for that first championship, that became a part of the highlight package. And they're both wearing Laker jerseys. When Kawhi Leonard hit that shot over Philly, he did it in a Raptors jersey. When Kawhi Leonard put up his hands and he put those gigantic hands up when he won, Kyle Lowry, those moments, those are the moments. Those moments build legacies. Those legacies build followers. Those followers build 20 years from now, somebody pushing their way to I want to go play for the Raptors. It has to be that way. And that's why success is important. Now, we bring it back to, what does this mean? I think this means the league is open, man. I think the CBA is really shaking things up. I think the Dallas Mavericks looked at this. And again, there's two versions of this story, and I don't know which one I believe. Version number one is Luka just kind of said it, or maybe put it out there that he wanted to be a Laker. And the Dallas Mavericks looked at him, looked at his commitment to his diet, looked at his commitment to his fitness, looked at his commitment to his team, looked at his commitment to them, and just said, you know what? Let's get out of this. Let's get out of this deal before we end up in the same situation that the New Orleans Pelicans were in with Anthony Davis, where we have no negotiating power, no leverage, and we're in a nasty divorce with the most marketable player in the NBA. Let's not do that. Let's not shop him. Let's not put this out there for the whole league to understand that we could potentially be exploring trading Luka Doncic, because it's not something you can come back from. That's the important thing to realize. You can't shop Luka Doncic, have the entire league talking about it, have it confirmed by everybody, and then just go back to like, nah, things are good now. It's never going to be okay again. It's just like the Spurs can't just put out feelers for Wemby right now. The Raptors can't just put out feelers for Scotty Barnes right now. You can't. That's your young franchise player. You cross that bridge once. You just say, okay, let me just try to find out what's available for Wemby. Maybe some team will give us 35 first-round picks. Okay, let's just find out what's available. Yo, that relationship is fractured. If he finds out you tried to trade him, boom, done. So they made the deal behind closed doors without that, okay? But it was because they felt a lack of commitment from him. I can tell you right now, and I'm very scared to play the clip, so I won't, because it just came off of a live stream ban, and I have no idea where the video was coming from. But if you follow us on X, there's a video of Nico Harrison just literally 2 weeks ago talking about how much Luka means to that franchise, talking about the tourism, talking about the following around the world, talking about the jersey sales, talking about him as a human being and what he's meant to that organization, and what a gift it's been having him. He didn't just forget all of that. No, this is a real belief on the Dallas Mavericks side that he doesn't want to be there, that he maybe long term wasn't going to sign up. That's one version of the story. Version number 2 of the story is they don't want him there. That's the version they want to sell right now, and I think that's what's creating all the confusion in the world, because nobody's believing that. Nobody is believing that you traded a 25-year-old. Now, again, some people have said before his prime. I'd argue that. I think Luka is very much in his prime right now, because he had some conditioning issues and because you wanted a big and you prioritize defense. Nobody really believed in that, man. Nobody trades this type of talent because they want to upgrade their defense. No. You would give up like 3 first-round picks for Herb Jones or something. Like you're not gonna do that just to upgrade your defense. And there's plenty of ways to upgrade your defense. And you have some really good defenders on the court. And oh, by the way, you were in the finals last year. It's not like, you're some bottom 2 team and you've been losing with him for 2 years. I mean, shit, it took 2 years of losing for the Raptors to give up on Vince Carter. It took 2 weeks of losing for the Mavericks to give up on Luka. Come on, man. I don't believe that. So I don't know which side of the aisle you fall on in terms of who you believe. But when it comes to LeBron, Clutch, Rich Paul, Rob Pelinka, Nico Harrison, Nike, Luka, 80, you are talking about the most elite social circles in the NBA. You are really talking about some of the most privately held secrets in the NBA. You're talking about some of the most inaccessible people in the NBA. When you're talking about Bill Duffy, you're talking about the power brokers, man. Bill Duffy, Rich Paul, Rob Pelinka, my God, Nike, Nico Harrison. You're talking about all the power brokers just came in and said, you know what would be really, really good for everybody right now? If Luka could be a Laker. Be good for ratings for the NBA. So wink, wink, Adam Silver, this is going to help you out. Good for our future. Nice for fans to see Luka and LeBron potentially compete for a playoff spot. We'll see. So we'll see who else is in bed with the purple and gold when the Lakers inevitably trade, Rui Hachimura for a perfectly serviceable center. I don't think they would do it, but would the Wizards just trade Jonas Valanciunas to the Lakers right now just for nothing? Just give him to the Lakers for dead weight? Just give him to the Lakers for Gabe Vincent and like a 2nd-round pick or something? Sure. Why not? Why not? And then suddenly, Jonas Valanciunas looks like he can play in the NBA again. I don't think that a deal on a team where LeBron is so involved, where JJ Redick is so involved, I don't think these deals can happen without the involvement of these people. You just can't. They just can't. I mean, I've always, I'll tell you something. And this is, something that I realized when Rob Babcock took the job. There's people who work for the NBA, and then there's people that work in the NBA. They're not the same. Rob Babcock was a guy who worked for the NBA. He worked, Brian Colangelo was someone who worked in the NBA. Rob Pelinka is someone who works in the NBA. Right? Like, you got to understand that there's a distinction here between these two things. When it comes to making a trade, when it comes to negotiating free agency, I've talked about it this offseason when it came to agent favors and how the Raptors potentially, locked up Ulrich Shamshay with the 57th pick and how no one really batted an eye towards that, even though I think it was, they stole him from the NBA. I think there are just certain people that are super plugged in. They have favors that they can request. It's not conspiratorial. I'm talking normal common sense here, man. Like, honestly, your net worth is your network. You've heard that. Your network is your net worth. That's pretty much it. Who you have on your phone, who you can call, that's your net worth. That's your whole thing. Okay. Right now, we are looking for publicity for the Pendants Film Festival. We have a documentary and a hockey documentary and a basketball documentary. If I knew like 2 NBA players really, really well, couldn't I ask them to come out for that documentary and then drum up a whole bunch of buzz? Do you know how much value that brings? If I know like the head of CBC, you know how much value it could bring to that? So again, it's like the people who are hermity, they're really costing themselves something. And the people who are pariahs, who kind of outside hires, they get hired. Like Daryl Morey is a bit of an outside hire. Like he's kind of operating in his own little world, right? A little insulated. Rob Babcock was a great example, rest in peace. But just a guy who doesn't have those connections. He can't make those calls because he doesn't have those numbers, right? So yeah, everyone has his number because he's the general manager of the Raptors. But when it comes time to trade Vince Carter, no one's helping you out. No one's making you any favors. People are just going to gang together and be like, yeah, that guy in Toronto, he's got a fantastic asset. He doesn't know what he has. Let's just rob him, right? Zal123 saying Masai got those connections, baby. To some extent, yes. Masai's a pretty well-connected dude. He's an outsider. And I think that's important to realize, that Masai has become more and more integrated and connected as he's become so good at his job. But, that's why you work up the totem pole in the NBA. That's the business of the NBA. That's why you don't just find some random super smart guy who's, dominating the world of business, never worked in the NBA, and then bring him in and be like, that's our general manager. That's going to fail. Every time that's going to fail. No matter how smart that guy is, no one's helping him. No one's working with you. You need to work with people to get these deals across, man. Like, I refuse to believe. Like, there's no part of me that believes. I mean, even the Raptors trade. I mean, to be clear, the Raptors trade with the San Antonio Spurs, a great deal of gratitude goes towards Bobby Webster and his connections with the Spurs front office. To get that deal pushed through, you need information. In order to get information, you need people gracious enough to share that bloody information with you, which means you have to have clear insight into Kawhi's medicals, Kawhi's circle, what he wants. You can't just have a random call. Like let's just say, for instance, I take over as a general manager for a team. Who am I going to call? Who do I know? What general manager is going to help me? I would just be so out of it. No, man, this is a handshake business. The media, the agents, the general managers, they all work this way. So when I see so many super well-connected people guarding this one Luka Doncic, trade, all of them working around it, that's where I'm at with this one. Is if you're a Raptor fan saying, man, I wish we knew Luka was available. He wasn't available, man. He wasn't available. There are certain businesses that are not for sale to you. They're not going to be sold to you. They're going to be privately sold. There are certain houses that are going to be privately sold. Okay. They don't just get listed on the market with your 2-bedroom condo. Okay. Chris Boucher is a 2-bedroom condo. Luka Doncic is a private estate. It's not going to be a public sale for a private estate like that. It's just not. He's the neighborhood. God damn it. He's not even the house. He's not the private estate. He's the goddamn neighborhood. Okay. There's too much money involved with this guy for him to go to Charlotte because Charlotte wanted to offer a whole bunch of first round picks. Okay. Devin Landry saying, I think the Lakers get Vucevic or JV. Vucevic makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Robert Barnes saying, nice to have you back. If SGA dreams of being a Raptor, maybe we can sign him after OKC wins their chip. Maybe. You know, it's interesting. The Raptors really haven't gone after a lot of free agents, if you've noticed. But you notice the one that they did go after? Giannis Antetokounmpo. Why? They have a connection. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will be another player that the Raptors will go after, 100%. Because they have a connection. They have an in. He's connected. He's connected through Canada Basketball. The Raptors are connected through Canada Basketball. Consider it like the Canada Mafia or the Canada Cartel. Like there's upper ups in Canada as well. They hold secrets. They hold, you know, information. They hold connections. Well, Shai is connected to you through that institution. RJ is connected to you through that institution. Right? So you can milk that. I'm not saying you're going to get Shai. Please understand. I'm not saying you're going to get Shai. But you could get Shai. You have a better chance of getting Shai than anybody else. Just like you had a better chance of getting Giannis than just about anybody else. Giannis loves Toronto. I can tell you that right now. Giannis loves Toronto. There's a lot of players that love Toronto. Actually, I'll tell you another one who loves Toronto. Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram likes Toronto. Brandon Ingram, I believe, would be happy in Toronto. Don't let the media fool you guys, man. There's a lot of people out there that want to believe that no player wants to play in Toronto is absolute garbage. There are plenty of players in this league that would give up money to leave their current situation to come play for the Toronto Raptors. You just need to create a winning culture. How do you do that? You need to get to the playoffs, man. And I think that's maybe what the Raptors are looking at right now. They are looking at something that you are probably not looking at, which is there is a drop-off in value from the 6th or 7th overall pick, potentially 8th overall pick to the 15th overall pick. Fine. There is a value drop in that. But you know what else getting to the playoffs does? It starts the clock. It starts the clock to relevance for the Toronto Raptors. It starts the clock to development. It starts the clock to actually developing those playoff reps and habits. Now, I've mentioned it before, and I'll mention it again because I talked about the winner effect at length this offseason. The average team that wins a championship in the prior 3 years averages over 55 wins. The average team. And by the way, this number is actually lower because of some extreme outliers like the 2009 Boston Celtics or the Miami Heat, free agent teams. If we did just teams that win without a major free agent addition or a major, trade, just winning as a group, it would probably be closer to 60 wins. So 3 years, trailing average 60 wins, 55 to 60 wins. You're not just going to go from 28 wins this year to 45 wins next year to a championship. That's not how it works. That's not how it ever works. Okay. You will probably, let's just say you push for the play-in this year, you go from probably getting beat 4-1 in the first round. Maybe you win one on lucky shooting. That doesn't seem very appealing to anybody here, but trust me, 5 really competitive playoff games are going to do a lot for this young core. So you do that. You start the momentum again. Do you have a better chance of the next star who becomes available wanting to come to Toronto because now they're a playoff team? Yes. Yes. It's quick. It's easier to imagine making it to the finals for a team that was just in the playoffs, as opposed to, you bottom out, you get, some 19-year-old, 20-year-old player. Now you got to play that player. Now you're even taking the clock even further because you're definitely going to play a top 5 pick. There's no way you're not playing a top 5 pick. You're going to play him heavy minutes. It's not like Jacoby and Gradey where you can just sort of drag them in and out of the lineup and push them in the G League. If you draft a top 5 player, if you draft an Ace Bailey, get prepared to lose a lot next year, bro. I want to be clear about that. I'm not suggesting don't tank. Please understand. I'm not bipolar. I understand the value of a young kid coming in. But hear me when I say this. Your window changes the minute you draft that top 3 pick, unless it's Cooper Flag, because I think he's actually NBA ready, and I think he'll contribute within the first 2 years. But if you take a Yegor Demon or something like that in the top 5, top 6, if you take even a Kaman Malawach, who I think the Raptors would have the luxury of bringing on off the bench, he's not like a prep to pros. He's not a AAU guy, so he wouldn't mind too much. But if you start like right now, do you really think that Ace Bailey is helping you win any more than RJ Barrett is? He's not. But you have to play him. You can't draft a guy top 3 and then just not play him. I mean, look at what the Hawks are doing. The Hawks are playing Zachary Risashik. He has that title as a first overall pick. They have to play him. Alex Sarr. Can you find a top 3 pick who didn't play major minutes in his rookie season? I can't think of one. The Warriors started James Wiseman. This is just tradition. You start top 3 picks, top 4 picks. You usually start them. Chris Paul started from day one. Darren Williams started from day one. You know, Chris Bosh started pretty much from day one, right? Started next to Anthony Davis, I believe. Anthony Bennett. Good example. Guy missed like every single shot. Reed Shepherd is a brilliant example, and Amen Thompson are brilliant examples of that not being the case. Those are good examples. Reed Shepherd and Reed Shepherd was in the G League this year. That's true. You can do that, but not if you can't justify it. I guess the Rockets can justify Reed's position because they have so many high lottery picks and big money players. But the Raptors would be starting Reed Shepherd right now, or they would at least be playing him high level rotation minutes, right? So if you're the Toronto Raptors right now, you have to be thinking longer term about when are we trying to be good with Scotty Barnes, right? When are we trying to be good? And again, you have to believe that the hypothesis that he's going to be that type of top, 10 player is actually going to come true. Darko Milicic is another great example. That is true, but he was on a contender. You're not a contender. He was 17 years old. Nobody drafted in this draft is 17. I mean, it's perfectly fine to draft a player, who's 17 or 18 years old. But I stand corrected. Yes, there have been some examples. But in the vast majority, Kwame Brown was given a chance to start on day one, even though he was a high schooler. He was starting from day one, right? He was given a chance to start next to Michael Jordan and I believe Jahidi White, Rip Hamilton, and Michael Jordan. I think that was the lineup, right? Maxi lighting up, y'all clutch. Hashim Thabit is another good example. Thinking of other examples, did Enes Kanter start on day one? He was a top 3 pick. No, he didn't. Yeah, so there have been some examples, but let's just say the vast majority of players. Let me just put it this way: if Ace Bailey is drafted by the Toronto Raptors, the 3rd overall pick, Ace Bailey is going to play a large amount of minutes. Either he's going to be a 6th man or he's going to be a starting small forward. At that point, however, what I would say is he's not one of the top 150 players in the league. He's not even close. So the physical development that guys like Brandon Ingram when he was younger, go look at Brandon Ingram's rookie season. I mean, Brandon Ingram has turned into an all-star. That would be a great outcome for Ace Bailey to become Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram didn't help anybody win in his first few years. He wasn't helping winning. So that's kind of my point right now is like, how much better does a roster around a young player who doesn't contribute to winning actually have to be to compensate for the fact that that player has to play a lot of minutes? And SP saying Dragon Bender, another good example. Dragon Bender, Jan Vesely. Jan Vesely was a 6th overall pick. I guess it's because these guys are foreign. We've mentioned Darko, Jan Vesely, Dragon Bender, all foreign players. Okay, maybe you can be foreign. Hashim Thabit. If you trade the pick this year, it better be an all-NBA player. Now, I don't think anyone's suggesting trading the pick. What I'm saying is where you're drafted has a lot to do with not only how much you're compensated when you come into the league, not only how you're covered, not only what is expected, but also your position on the team. Okay. How much rope, how much leeway you're given. I just don't think at this point that adding a 19-year-old to this team, with a high lottery pick, unless that 19 or 18-year-old is Cooper Flag, is going to change your dimensions or outcome for next year very much. What it is going to change is the fact that you're going to have a $10, $11 million player on your books next year who's not going to be contributing to a lot of winning. He'll be exciting. He'll score some points. He'll have some high moments. He'll maybe, make some dunks, but he's not going to be defensively on the level that you're going to need a player to win, right? This is not Europe. Young players are thrust into the fire because they're a marketing tool. When you, as MLSE, have a top 3 pick, fans expect that top 3 pick to play, right? I cannot remember. I mean, Andrea Bargnani was the first overall pick. He didn't start. Okay, so just to give you an example of a player who didn't start right away. He played major minutes, though. Major minutes, right? So typically, the players that you're referencing that didn't play right away are busts. So Andre, with a very good point. Most of the players you're referencing are busts. But even when you look at a team like the Atlanta Hawks, who are all in right now with this Trae Young core, who just drafted Zachary Risache, who don't have their pick this year, they're still starting Zachary Risache. Is he better than DeAndre Hunter? Hell no. Is he better than Bogdanovich? No. I don't think he's better than Sadiq Bey right now. Huh. Okay. Actually, you know what I would love to do? I would love to shift gears from this talk and go into the Raptors post game. Give me one sec here. Please, Lord, do not let this get copyright. Oh, Jacoby spoke post game and Gradey. And wait a second. Perfect. So it's Darko, Jacoby, and Gradey. Just the 3 people I want to hear from. Perfect.
Very thorough performance. You guys at both ends of the court. Must be one of your best ones of the year, do you think? Both players?
Yeah, to be honest with you, every player that stepped on the floor contributed. It was great to see Jacoby to finish the game, played the almost like full 4th quarter. It was great to see Gradey, to see all of those young guys. Ocha had amazing performance tonight. Defensively, did not miss a shot, 3 blocks. 5 rebounds. A lot of guys really contributed on both ends of the floor. That's something that we talked about from the start of the year, that we need whole team and contribution from all the guys, and the team is above everything.
You guys do your ability to close games in the last 10 days has been really improved. Why do you think that is?
Experience, like having guys in those situations, learning. Anytime in life when you go through some failures, call it failures, they are only failures if you don't learn anything from them. If you learn from them, if you study the film, if you study your game, if you put the work in, you turn that.
Bro, can I just say something? Darko is talking directly to Doug Smith, and he doesn't even realize it. He's talking directly to him. You go through life, you go through failures, keep writing the same shitty articles for the last 25 years, you don't learn nothing. That's the failure. Boom. Darko just roasted Doug Smith. Doesn't even realize it.
Into your success. So that's what the team does. That's what our guys take pride of, and we're really trying to improve day by day.
I don't think IQ got back in there after that first 3rd quarter shift, and it looked like he was in the locker room for a bit. Did anything flare up, or was that all just part of the plan in terms of
part of the plan?
Restriction?
Yep, and it's restriction. Yep.
RJ looked like he hit his head pretty hard there and took a moment to get up. Was the reasoning to keep him in the game when you guys were up?
He hit the floor, but did you see the hole that he made? He's got pretty strong head, so he was the one. He wanted to finish the game. He felt good. He didn't have any problems. So.
What do you think's gotten into him defensively? It seems. I mean, you demanded more from him, and why is he delivering that?
listen, it's fun to play defense. When you play defense and your whole team is competing and playing to that level, it's fun. It's fun, and that's what we as a young team are learning, how fun it can be when you're playing defense and everybody's engaged. I'm really proud of his improvements on that side of the ball, and just keep going.
Wondering if you heard the booze during the American anthem, and what do you make of that? Obviously not the first arena.
No comment on that.
James Harden with only 8 points in the second half after 17 in the first. What were you guys trying to do differently to sort of slow him down?
Nothing. We did not to try to do anything differently. We just tried to execute our game plan better, and we were more disciplined in the second half of doing that. So as outcome, we kept him from the free throw line quite a bit, and he was not able to score in the second half the same way.
You guys limited Kawhi Leonard and James Harden, two of the best scorers in the league, throughout the game. What was sort of the team mentality defensively to slow those two down?
Yeah, of course, everybody knows what they're capable of doing. You got a Ken and all those guys. We watched a lot of film. We know their tendencies, so we just tried to do what we could to the best of our abilities, taking away what they like to do.
How have you seen the Raptors' team defense evolve, gel over the past 10 games?
Yeah, I think for sure. I think the way that we've all really bought in, you can really tell on the court. We're really starting to help each other defensively. We're talking, and the more that we lock up, the more confidence we get throughout the game. We've been winning too, so it just carries over.
A little over halfway through your rookie season now, what do you think your biggest improvement area has been?
I think understanding what I can bring to the game when I'm not performing the way I want to, knowing that I could always bring the energy defensively, diving on the ground, knowing how to move off the ball offensively, and then just the game's kind of slowing down. I'm starting to build more confidence.
What are the challenges in those film sessions? When you guys were having those losing stretches earlier in the year, what are the challenges of those compared to when you're winning? Does it change at all, those sorts of film sessions and off-court work?
Nah, it's all the same. When we were losing, there's probably more that we were looking at. But now that we're really starting to buy in and gel, we're still watching the same film. We're still making mistakes. Basketball is not perfect, but we still learn the same. We still watch the same clips every game.
Everybody, thank you.
Gradey, you played some tough defense today against both Harden and Leonard. What was that like? You guys held them both to about, I think, 33% field goal shooting.
Yeah, I think, coming out with energy, knowing that if I want to have a good game, it's going to start on the defensive end, and that helps me transition to my offense, personally. But as a team, when we see one guy do it, it's contagious, and, see Scotty start off there, picking up full court, as a big time player is super contagious. So that's what we just wanted to do. And, being able to play ISO defense against those type of guys for me in my second year is huge in my development. So yeah, it's good.
How do you see the Raptors team defense evolving over the past 10 games? You guys have been quite high.
I think it's just, I don't know. Can you repeat that one more time? Sorry.
How have you seen the team defense gelling for the Raptors over the past 10 games?
Yeah, I think it's getting guys back. I think it's, there's so much change with our roster in the past couple of weeks with guys coming back and, Quick finally getting back and, just getting, big pieces like that. And I think it's just knowing in our heads we don't need to change really anything. We just need to go out there and play hard. Obviously, there's things that we need to do different with different teams that we play. But at the same time, hard work and just effort, cancel a lot of those struggles out. So just remembering that and keeping the mindset of playing hard every single possession, really.
IQ's still working his way back and is on a minute restriction, but how much of a difference does having him on the floor make for you guys, especially offensively? How much does it open things up for you?
It's huge. I mean, the speed that he plays at, but he doesn't hustle. He doesn't go too quick. It's the pace of his game kind of allows me to play off him really well, where I can cut off that and kind of read him, and that change of pace kind of allows the defense to help out on him. If he doesn't have a shot, I'm filling up in a gap, or different guys cutting to the rim and just open up different, avenues for us to score, and then on defensive and just that versatility with him and stuff like that. So he brings a lot to the table.
This is obviously a pretty chaotic week around the NBA. Normally would be a pretty big adjustment just in terms of all the noise going on for a young player, but given what you lived through here last year with all the in and out and changes. Like, was that sort of like a crash course just in terms of the business of the NBA and what this looks like?
Yeah, I think so. And with guys like, I talk about, my vet with Garrett, talking with him last year of just being prepared for everything and the changes that go on with an 82-game season. It definitely, kind of prepared me for, some of these, but, this one was a big trade. So it's just, I think, surprising a lot of people, but at the same time, yeah, it kind of shows the NBA is a business at the end of the day, and, got to be prepared for anything.
You're no longer the rookie. When you look at Jacoby, how do you feel like he's been adapting to the game?
Amazing. I feel like you really don't have to tell him much. Obviously, there's guys like Garrett that, are in his ear, telling him, different pieces of advice. And I kind of shared a little bit about, my journey last year and, the ups and downs of it. But the thing with him, you really don't have to tell him much with, I don't know, his effort. He plays super hard. And, I feel like, when I'm on the court with him, he brings that, the effort piece where I can find him in the corner like I did on one. Me and him are celebrating. And, it's just kind of like two young guys, playing in the NBA. It's cool to see.
What was your reaction to learning you'd be playing in the Rising Stars game?
It was great. I mean, it was a goal.
I just want to pause this for a second. Yes, technically, we have gotten a copyright, not a strike, but a copyright flag for these post games. It really does depend if these post games air on NBA TV or not. The NBA and I think professional hockey are really cracking down on content creators. So basically, if you share anything of this sort, you do have to add a healthy amount of commentary to it. I think the issue with the Scotty Barnes video that got us in a little bit of trouble last week, actually specifically on January, exactly 1 week ago, was that I didn't really add any commentary by slowing it down, stopping, talking about it, etc. So I guess I'm doing that here. But I don't think these are the videos that trigger that. I think it's usually like the NBA TV stuff, the TNT stuff that usually triggers it. But I mean, if they wanted to technically enforce this, they could.
Me and my dad write down goals on paper before every season. That was one of them. So it's pretty cool to be able to share that with him. And, he's here, so I get to go talk to him and, kind of plan our week with our family there. So, it's a blessing.
You guys were able to sort of crack the game open a little bit in that third quarter. What were you guys trying to focus on to get that momentum?
I think just being smart with the ball, but also not changing the way we're playing, keep being aggressive. And, if we change the way we're playing, that's just, it's not us. So just being us at the end of the day and, going out there and playing basketball.
Okay. I really loved this entire conversation with specifically Jacoby and what he said about just it not changing. That has been the saving grace for the Raptors all year, is win, lose, it doesn't change anything. This team is going to come out, they're going to pass the basketball. When they don't pass the basketball, there's going to be consequences for it. They're going to play together. They're going to stay together off the court. This is a team that put in so much work this summer to get ahead of the curve. This is a team that is trying to speed up the process without skipping steps, right? All of this point of attack stuff, I don't think I can even explain how bad RJ Barrett was defensively 3 weeks ago. It was looking untenable. It was looking like this guy cannot be here. But right now, I'm like, okay, transition scoring, check. Playmaking, check. Outside shooting, shaky, but sometimes, okay, cool. Reasonably efficient, reasonably talented, and he's guarding. Now he can stay, right? And it's the same thing, when you have that internal competition, it's a really good thing. The Raptors' injuries early in the season where Bruce, Kelly, these guys, they weren't playing, sort of forced the Raptors to have to overplay RJ through a tough stretch, overplay Gradey. Right now, if RJ Barrett is not going to guard, RJ Barrett's going to play 25 minutes a night. And Jacoby's going to get some minutes from him. Ochai's going to get some minutes from him. Internal competition is good. For a team that's connected, internal competition is great because it creates balance and accountability. It creates options. There's certain lineups that just work against certain teams, and you're getting to figure that out on the fly. And so, yeah, it's been nice to have Emmanuel quickly back, but wait till he gets back fully, right? These are some good players. I don't know how to explain it to you, but there's a world in which the 5th pick or the 4th pick in this draft is not as good as Emmanuel Quickley, ever. I don't know who that 5th pick is going to be, by the way. I'm just saying, there's a chance. There's a chance. If you look around the league, how many 1st overall, 2nd overall, 3rd overall, 4th overall, 5th overall picks that fan bases clearly were so excited about when they came into, the big new shiny toy. How many of those players are actually available? The Brandon Ingram that you so desperately want was a 2nd overall pick, and the RJ Barrett you so desperately wanted to trade was a Gatorade National Player of the Year and a 3rd overall pick. So the further you remove the player from the day they are drafted, the more insight you have into who they are. But it's so funny to me that the minute the draft rolls around again, everyone starts capping like every top 3 pick is going to be a franchise savior like Luka Doncic. You're not going to. That's not the way it works. And what I think great organizations, at least historically, Spurs, Thunder, Celtics. I'm not talking about the lucky ones that just, keep having trades and free agents fall ass backwards into them. I'm talking about like great organizations that have had to actually build shit from scratch, build through the 2nd round, build through the late 1st round, build through the draft, build through, smart trades, good development, good hires, these types of teams. What these organizations typically do is they have some competitive advantage where they have a deviation in their assertion of values from the norm. So whatever other teams are valuing around the league, maybe it's, what the Raptors did early on with Division 6-9, valuing positional versatility over other things like shooting. Now, as the Raptors continue to miss jump shots, a lot of people laughed at the fact that they didn't care about shooting very much. But what I'm trying to say is that when you do prospect evaluation, your assertion of values comes into full center. When you draft a Sam Bowie over a Michael Jordan, it's clearly because you value something more than something else. If you drafted a Michael Jordan over a Sam Bowie, the opposite could be true. You clearly value something else. Some teams value blue bloods. They value college, they value that you played in a big program. Some value AAU success, high school success, ranking success. Some value that you had team success throughout your youth, right? That you were a part of a lot of winning, that you were in winning programs. Some don't. Some teams really value size, others don't. Some teams really value defense, some don't. Some teams really value wingspan and positional versatility, others don't. It's clear to me that the Raptors value draft picks and the draft in general less than other teams. It's burned them a lot. But they don't think of the draft as some sort of like, this is going to save us. They don't think of it that way. The way they think of it is, this is a tool among 10 to 12, 15, 20 other tools that we have. And it's an asset among 10, 15, 20 other assets that we have. The Raptors are very good at exploring alternative avenues. The Raptors are also really good at exploring value deals. Value deals like Ochai Agbaji. Okay. Isaac Okoro was a top 5 pick. Ochai Agbaji was a 14th overall pick that you got for a 29th overall pick. Who's better right now? Isaac Okoro or Ochai Agbaji? I'll leave it to you to let me know. Who's better? Right? Emmanuel Quickley was a late 2nd round pick. Sorry, a late 1st round pick. He was a mid-20s guy, right? Desmond Bane, late 20s guy. There's a lot of value to be found here. So again, I realize that the prevalent conversation around Raptorland right now is going to be tank. But I just want to say that I think it's really unfortunate that after beating the Boston Celtics last month, now beating the Clippers at home like this, that there aren't more people, even more people, that are a little bit excited about what this means for what your young players are actually doing. Because I want to tell you, just a few weeks ago, there were people who genuinely believed that Scotty Barnes couldn't win as a first option. He just couldn't win if he was your best player. Right now, you're proving that you can. Right? When all the pieces around him are actually moving correctly, and there's a sufficient amount of defensive effort being put in, and you're not getting blown out by 35 points because you're just not getting back defensively, you're actually winning games. This matters. This has to matter. Okay? And whether I'm looking at the Portland Trailblazers, I'm looking at the Washington Wizards, I'm looking at all these fairly bad teams, I don't think any of them have 4 to 5 really good young players that I would want to build with. They just don't. And so I think the Raptors are more in the area of the Detroit Pistons or specifically the San Antonio Spurs. I think the difference here is because of how they started the season. A lot of people want to believe that the Raptors should be more in conversation with the Wizards, but the Wizards don't have a young franchise player. They don't. They have complementary pieces, and they're begging the draft gods for that franchise player. No, I think the Raptors could be buyers at the trade deadline, man. I think they could be buyers, and I think there could be some very, very interesting players available for sale. And to answer the question, would I look at Brandon Ingram? Yes. Yes, I would. If it costs you Bruce Brown, and you know for sure that he's willing to come back on a deal around $30 million, I don't know how you can consciously. I don't think you can justify not bringing in Brandon Ingram. He would start immediately in place of Gradey Dick. You would immediately be a playoff team. Immediately. The gap here is so huge. The question you have to ask yourself if you make that deal is, now you have no shooting. Your starting lineup is 1 non-shooter, 3 questionable shooters, and Emmanuel Quickley. It's really difficult to win in the NBA without outside shooting. It's really difficult. So if you have a second plan, like an ace up your sleeve, like a sign and trade for a Miles Turner this offseason, that might change my equation a little bit. But if you're the Raptors, your one and only goal right now is, how do we put a contender around Scotty Barnes? That is it. That is what I want to say. That's your goal. However you want to do it through the draft, do it through the second round, do it through trades, do it through free agency. It doesn't matter. Do it through internal development, do it through chemistry. You must put a contender around this guy soon. And you must start the clock. However you do it, you have to start that clock. You have to start moving towards those playoff losses. You have to start moving towards those playoff reps. And then you build from there. You build from there. If this team puts together another offseason the way that they put together last offseason, granted, last offseason, most of those young players were rookies. Players do take a jump in that second year. So expect players like Jonathan Mobo, Ulrich Shamshe, Grady Dick, Jacoby Walter to be significantly better next year. Even Ochai Agbaji, Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett. Look, every player in the league is going one of 2 ways, up or down. There's nobody who's staying still. Everyone is either, if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards in terms of skill sets. Right now, it feels like every single player on this team is moving up. Everyone's getting better. Even the old guys, like, older guys like Chris Boucher are getting better. So everybody's improving, and you just don't know where this leads. You just don't know. You've just beat a really good team in which you shut down 2 very good players, both of whom are all-star level players. You do this after shutting down Trae Young on back-to-back nights. You do this after holding Giannis Antetokounmpo to 11 points. You do this after a stretch in which you were a top 3 defense in the NBA. In the entire NBA, you were a top 3 defense for 10 straight games. This is so important. It's so truly important. So if you can add a Brandon Ingram to this without killing your flexibility or, dropping young players, if all it takes is Bruce Brown and maybe that Indiana pick, do you look at it? You'd be crazy not to. You'd be crazy not to. He's a really talented player. You'd be very lucky if at some point in his life that Gradey Dick is a better player than Brandon Ingram. You'd be very lucky. Okay? So maybe Brandon Ingram is not the guy that you want. Maybe it's something else. Looking around the league, right? There's certain players who are openly available. There's certain players who maybe aren't openly available, but they're privately available, that people know through the grapevine that they are there. CGB23. 23 is my favorite number, by the way. So thank you very much for that. As always, thanks for the content, Rob. Support Pendants. I appreciate you. Thank you very much for that. You know, with all these companies, I think let me briefly address something else that's kind of in the air right now, which is the tariffs. It's not going to be a political talk. Don't worry. Don't you worry. This won't be a political talk. This will be a real sensible talk, because I presume that a lot of people who watch this show are not from Canada, but I know that most of you are. I look at the analytics. I know that the vast majority of our viewers are from Canada because we cover the Toronto Raptors. And I'm in Canada. And I'm a Canadian citizen. And I'm someone who grew up in the United States. So I got to tell you, I had very, very complicated emotions when I heard a 15-year-old today being booed singing the American national anthem. That was strange to me. It jarred up a lot of emotions, because every time I've attended a Raptors game, I have stood up very proudly and sang both anthems. Even if I'm the only person in my section. I don't understand when it became normal to not stand up and sing your national anthem. If you don't know the Canadian national anthem at this point, bro, learn the fucking words. My thoughts are complicated. As someone who has worked in the Canadian film industry, as someone who has worked in America, someone who's, worked on both sides of it, someone who understands implicitly, what's at stake here, I get it. I think my message to you, Canada, is put Canada first. Put Canada first, man. Buy Canadian. Support Canadian. I'm not saying you should go onto American forums and start dissing Americans. I'll guarantee you that a lot of Americans out there are really upset with what their president has decided to do in terms of these tariffs, in terms of not only harming his own people and their, grocery bill and their energy bill, but rather also hurting the neighbors to the north. Put Canada first. You like Heinz ketchup? Do you know what ketchup is in my fridge right now? French's. You know why it's in my fridge? Because it says made in Canada. I think you desperately need to start looking at labels and buying Canadian. And if you're not buying Canadian, then at least don't buy American. Okay? And this is not me advocating in some sort of anti-American propaganda. Okay? What I'm trying to tell you is support yourselves. Now, as a film festival, we have often been pulled away. So I want to just explore this for a second because I think it's very relevant. Film festivals have Canadian quotas. I didn't grow up here in my early years, so I don't really understand the quota shit. And I've always hated it. I want to be clear about that. Just be honest and transparent, as I always am. I hate quotas. I hate this idea that we have to program a certain number of Canadian films. I hate that because it shafts other people. And I don't like that. I don't like that. If somebody from Zimbabwe or Nicaragua who doesn't have a lot of money spends the same amount of money as someone from Toronto who has more money than them, they both submit great film, that I have to automatically select the Canadian film for the festival because the festival happens to be in Canada. And oh, by the way, we need support from the government. Pendance is not supported by the government. It is one of the rare film festivals in the world that is independently operated. It is operated by us. We run it. We own it. We're not controlled by anybody. And I am very proud to say that the largest number of Canadian films ever have been selected to Pendance. But you know why they were selected to Pendance? Because they were good. They were really good this year. The reason that I've never really supported the quota shit, just like I would never support a ban on American products, is because I believe people have a right to choose. And I believe in choice. I believe that people should have a right to choose, just like we should have a right to choose our program and we should have a right to choose the best films. I believe that a world that is good is inclusive, not exclusive. I believe a world that's good is collaborative, where people have conversations, even difficult conversations. I don't believe banning American films from our festival would make our festival better. I think it would make it worse. I think it exacerbates a problem. I'm happy. I'm very proud that several American films are at our festival. And I'm so happy that those Americans are actually attending the festival. It's great. But you know what sucks? Is that so many Canadians prefer American. They prefer American shows, American culture, American content, American products. The first thing that somebody said to me that I won't name right now when I bought French's over Heinz is that Heinz is better. It's a small, stupid thing, right? I don't even think it's better. French's is fine. It's really good ketchup. Ketchup's not good for you anyways. Maybe this is like right around the time that you just start making your own food, okay? What I'm saying is that you need to support Canadian business where you can. You need to start supporting Canadian content creators, Canadian, artists, because far too often, I was watching a reel the other day and we shared it on the Pendance Instagram. The best place to work for film professionals outside of LA and New York? Toronto. You know where else made the top 10 list? Calgary. You know where else made the top 10 list? Vancouver. One of the saddest things that I can admit to is that I have not seen most of this beautiful country. I've never been to BC, bro. It's a sad, sad truth. I've never been to Calgary. I've never been to Saskatoon. I've been everywhere in the States. Damn, I know that's to be true. But I can tell you that my next vacation will not be to the United States. My next vacation will be to Canada. And maybe it's not going to be as glitzy. Maybe it's not going to be as Instagram heavy. Oh, you mean you traveled across your country? Yeah, why not? Why is going to Seattle? And I'll tell you why. It's because there is this idea that the US is great in Canada. And I think that idea is evaporating very quickly before our eyes. Why is going to New York like a status symbol for people? Why is going to Miami? Why do so many people have to go to LA? It's like, oh, I got to go to LA. That's where I get my vacation fixed. Like, fuck that, man. Go to BC, go to Vancouver. I think we need to start having some pride in this country. It is a beautiful fucking country. I told my girlfriend, now, again, I'm a dual citizen. And my girlfriend, for whatever reason, we both immigrated here. Neither of us were born here. She immigrated from Bulgaria. I immigrated from the United States. So we've had a lot of discussions about where we want to be, grow up, going forward, get old, all that stuff, start a family. We've both talked about this. And every time that discussion about what about moving back to America has come up, I say, no, I will not do it. And she says, why? And I said, because I live in the best country in the world. Am I wrong? I didn't feel this way about this country when we moved here. I felt like I was being dragged from my home and I hated it. But over a period of time, I've come to really love Canada. I've come to love the people. I've come to love the values. I've come to love the sights. I've come to love the natural beauty of it. I've come to love the cold. I've always loved the cold. I mean, in fairness, I'm not difficult to sell on Canadian winters. I've come to have a lot of pride in this place. When I'm in another country, I'm very proud to say I live in Canada. It's a beautiful thing. I'm proud of my Canadian passport. I'm really proud to say that my kids will be Canadian. That's a beautiful thing. This is a better country than the United States, 100%. And I apologize in advance if you're an American watching this. No offense to you. It is. It has a lot to offer. In terms of values, in terms of resources, in terms of creativity. I'm old enough to realize that there's a lot of great Canadian filmmakers who ended up going south to make their bread. There's a lot of great Canadian actors who didn't make it here. They had to go to LA and they made it. We need to get rid of this idea, not only in the film industry, but in the world, that we need to go somewhere else. Do you know why Penn Dance exists? Penn Dance exists because I am the biggest asshole in the world. Penn Dance exists because when I wanted to start a film festival in December, they told me Americans won't come. The world won't come to Canada in the winter. It'll never happen, Rob. You can't start a festival in the winter. People from LA will never come here. You know what my thought was? Fuck the people in LA. What about the people here? Don't the people in Toronto deserve a film festival in the winter? Or no? We got to have all of our cultural calendar in the summer. We got to have our entire cultural calendar, built around American vacation habits. Everything in Canada, per my estimation, unfortunately, is built around American habits, American standards. A lot of it is, at least, from my understanding and how I've seen it. When I'm told that I can't start a film festival because nobody from America will come, my first question is, I didn't say that I'm starting a film festival in America. I'm saying I'm starting a film festival in Toronto. What about the people in Toronto? Will the people in Toronto come? Won't they come? They live here. Wouldn't they come? And they have. 8 years in a row. This is our 8th year. We have proven the world wrong. And not proven the world wrong, we've proven Canadians wrong. We've proven Canadian government bodies wrong. We've proven people who told us not to do this wrong. Because people have come from all over the world and they love it. There are people coming from Europe this year. There are people coming from LA, Miami, Cleveland. There are people coming from everywhere. And they're going to love it. And they're going to go back and they're going to tell their families that Canada during the winter was awesome. Penn Dance was awesome. And that's going to be me saying, I told you so. This is a fight. This is a fight to prove that Canada must put Canada first. If your first question is, what will America think about us? You're not putting Canada first. Your first question should be, what do we think about this? This is what I mean. You cannot get all of your cultural marching orders from them. You can't. You have to embrace yourself. You have to be yourself. And proudly, authentically yourself. Which means you have to stand up for what you believe in. It's unfortunate how much of our news cycle, do you know that the vast majority, and I'm speaking not about the people who open up the Globe and Mail every single day and really read through the minutia of it. The vast majority, I want to be clear about this. This is 100% truth, and tell me I'm lying. The vast majority of people in this country, or at least a sizable number of people in this country, an exorbitant number of people in this country, have watched more coverage of Donald Trump than they have of any Canadian political leader. You could probably write me. You probably know more about Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, and Joe Biden than you know about Jean Chrétien, Stephen Harper, and Justin Trudeau. Is that true? Is that probably true? It's just because of how our cultural appetites are built to follow American things, American celebrities, American everything. There's Canadian celebrities too. There's Canadian artists too. Support them. There's Canadian news stories too. There's Canadian TV shows, some of the best in the world. When I talk to people in Europe about Canada, when I talk to people in Canada about Canada, the impression is so different. People love Canada across the world, man. I'm going to be honest with you. You may have some idea of yourself as an ugly stepchild, because what is what does it really imply when the first question to every athlete, every celebrity who visits this country is, what do you think of us? What does that really imply? What is the implication here? What are you saying when you're asking a Scotty Barnes, so do you enjoy being in Canada? Like, what the fuck are you, an outpost? You're not an outpost. You're a beautiful country. This is a beautiful city. It's one of the best cities in the world. He gets to live here and play basketball and make money. The only thing that's awkward about this exchange is you asking him every day about it. That's it. That's the only awkward thing about this. This city speaks for itself. When you come here, when you're at Pearson and you drive into the city, do you not feel that you're in a world-class city? When you go to Vancouver, do you not feel like you are in one of the most beautiful cities in the world? Of course. This country has a lot to offer. This country has a lot to offer. And it's time that we put Canada first. On a federal level, certainly not educated enough to be giving policy advice to the federal leaders, federal leadership of this country. But maybe this means opening up trade agreements with other countries. Maybe this means thinking outside the box. Maybe this means looking into trading with countries we haven't traditionally traded with and beefing up those trade agreements. Maybe this means doing more for ourselves. Maybe this means supporting more. I mean, obviously, no country can ever succeed by itself. You're going to need positive trade agreements with other countries. But maybe those countries can be China, Japan, India. It's possible. This is not, 1600 where you have to trade directly with the country next to you. It's going to be a little bit more difficult. And also, by the way, the president of the United States is not going to be the president of the United States in 4 years. Right? So this could be short term. In the short term, however, there's going to be a little bit of pain. There's going to be pain at the grocery store. There may be pain in terms of your buying power. There may be pain in terms of your currency. There may be pain in terms of interest rates. I don't know. There might be a lot of pain. And there might be a lot of controversy. But I want to say, just as a word to everyone who might listen to this till the 2 hour and 11-minute mark, please don't boo the American national anthem. Please don't boo it. Please don't boo it. I'll tell you something that has been true through every point of my life. People take on the identity of their abusers. This is a fact. This is a fact of life. When you see somebody yelling at their kid, screaming at their kid, berating their kid, if somebody did that to them, I do not want Canada to become American. I don't want Canadians to become more American. I want Canadians to become more Canadian. And there is nothing more Canadian than being peaceful at a time of war, than being the bigger person. These are the qualities that I love about this country. That this country is not petty. That this country is not retaliatory and disgusting. That this country, while I have been disturbed to my core by all of the racist rhetoric that has come out in regards to all the immigration of Indians to Canada and all of the shit that comes out from rebel media and all those people, don't lose what makes you you. You know what happens when you lose that? The abuser wins. There's nothing that a terrible person wants you to do more than to lose yourself. So when you sit there and you boo a 15-year-old singing the American national anthem, you know who wins? Trump wins. I hate people who, wow, what a silly way to start that. I despise people who stoke the fans of hate and create more hate and vitriol in this world. The world does not need more of that. And nothing is going to make you more vulnerable as a human being than hate. and being isolated from people. Nothing. Hating Americans is not the solution. This is not the solution. Going on forums and talking shit to Americans, telling people, I'm never ever going to come to America again. America's the worst country in the world, blah, 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 blah. Yo, no, this is not the solution. The solution is support Canada. And supporting Canada does not necessarily mean you have to hate every American. It doesn't mean you have to, boycott America. It just means you have to support Canada. It means you have to go and support Canadian artists. It means you have to support Canadian products. Go buy at a Canadian coffee store. Go support the mom and pop stores. Yo, that's what we're talking about. Okay? Hate does not solve anything. You hating Americans, you booing the American national anthem, what does that do for you? My girlfriend and I were looking at this, and we were just looking at each other like, what did that do for the people who were booing? That make you feel better? Oh, look, we're booing a 15-year-old singing an American national anthem. What the fuck, man? It does nothing. You did nothing. All you did was showed a lot of shitty people we can be shitty too. Be better. That's all I'm going to say. Just be better. Let's be better. You know what? Americans would definitely boo the Canadian national anthem. And that's why a lot of the people in this world hate Americans, because they boo national anthems. What is the reputation that America has around the world? That they're the type of people that go to France, and instead of embracing the culture and welcoming the culture and opening their minds to the culture, they try to enforce their culture. They say, "Oh, we invented French fries." You didn't. Or sorry, they did actually. My bad. That was a terrible example. Please clip that. No, they go in and they say, "Why y'all speak so funny?" That's the American way. Go to a country that you don't speak the language and ask them why they're speaking funny. That's the reputation. That's why it's embarrassing to travel as an American across the world, because America has this reputation of just not really accepting anything other than itself, not caring about anything other than itself. That's not Canada's reputation around the world. Canada's reputation is the country that helps, the country that accepts, the country that tolerates. These are good things. You may not think these are good things. These are great things. These are great things. These are things that help the world. Canada has been largely progressive, even with conservative government. I would argue, even when this country has had conservative leadership, they have been a far more progressive country in terms of human rights, gender equality, racism, all sorts of these things, than the vast majority of countries in this world. Not perfect by any means. I'm not washing over the record. There's been a lot of troubling history in Canada as well, but I'm saying, comparatively speaking to the vast majority of the world, Canada has been on the better end of this. Let us not take this pit-pat war with the United States and become the United States. Because you know what? You're never going to be better at being the US than the US. Stoking your, puffing your chest and saying, we're willing to go to war with the United States. No, you're not. No, you're not. You are not. Okay? You don't want that. Trust me. You don't. Okay? It will destroy you. It will destroy them. It will destroy everything. Don't do that. Okay? That's not the point. The answer to destruction is not more destruction. You must be strong. Yes. And the strong thing right now is to support Canada. That's my final point on this, is support Canada. Okay. Okay, some super chats. Slitherman for Rob's Banff Vacation Fund. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. James Barron, love these, Rob. Missed the start. Recap on thoughts of this game, Scotty's game. James Barron, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do justice to the super chat. I appreciate it. Thoughts on this game? Very competitive, very good result. Scotty's game, I thought he did what was needed. Like, I think they played him really, really well. I think they guarded him really well. I think they had a game plan to want to make him a passer. I think he did really good. I think he did what his team needed him to do. I think he picked up that third foul. It was a little bit chippy, but I liked his defensive aggression. I think he set a really good tone for this team. I think he made some really great passes. It's not a statistically dominant performance. It's definitely not something you want to see every night of like, hey, Scotty Barnes versus Kawhi Leonard head to head. And it's like, ooh, Scotty had 15 points, but it's like, oh, worth noting, Kawhi had 14, right? So, yeah, I think Scotty's just the ultimate team player. Darko's talked about this. Like, there are winners and then there's competitors. Like, Scotty's a winner. He's going to do whatever is required. And when you get to the playoffs, if the Raptors get to the playoffs, I'm sure you'll see that the game he needs, the game you need 35 from him, he's going to give you 35. But then the game that you need 12 and the greatest defense you've ever seen, he's going to give you that too. There's not a lot of players who can give it to you 10 different ways. He's a player who can give it to you 10 different ways. So I appreciate that about him. Japjeet Singh saying, please let me know if I said that correctly. I try to be pretty correct with the pronunciations, but I think it's Japjeet Singh. Canadians gotta appreciate what we have, and that includes our face of the league, Scotty Barnes. Appreciate you, man. I will say one thing, and I brought this up on the Twitter Spaces earlier with Zazu. All this talk about Zion Williamson, out of shape. All this talk about Joel Embiid, out of shape, injuries. All this talk about Luka Doncic, potentially 270, smokes, drinks, etc. All this talk, does it ever occur to you or kind of make you appreciate the fact that you've never, ever had to wonder whether Scotty was in shape to start a season? And you never will, because he's too much of a pro for that. I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. I don't take that for granted. I think there's a lot of stars that sort of play themselves out of shape, into shape, out of shape, into shape. And I think he takes this very seriously. I think he takes the prep work really seriously. And it was very encouraging to hear Jacoby and Gradey, talk about how Scotty sort of sets the marching orders of, when you have one of the best players in the league that's going out there trying to pick up full court, it really does sort of set the tone for your team. So I really appreciate the fact that Scotty is that type of dude. So, yeah. Terrence Popovich saying, is Shea in shape? 100%, man. That dude is merciless when it comes to being in shape. I mean, he might be like 4% body fat or something. Like, he is an extremely well-conditioned athlete. Anyways, thank you for joining us for our first live back. Covered a range of topics. Be fun adding these timestamps. I am on the panel on Wednesday and Friday this week, if I'm not mistaken. I think I'll be on the panel Wednesday and Friday, if I'm not called in for emergency tomorrow once they figure out that I predicted this whole Luka to Lakers thing. That should be fun. Not having me on Monday is a big L for the panel. I gotta say, that's a loss. But I have a lot of work to do with Pen Dance for the next next 2 weeks. Tickets are on sale. Links in the description. Tickets are starting to sell now, so I'm excited about that. Zal saying, no, we need you tomorrow when Jordan starts saying the Mavs won the trade. It's funny. Jordan is definitely going to probably say, I want to say definitely probably, but I have a feeling Jordan is going to say the Mavs won the trade. I think some people are going to say the Mavs won the trade. Hang on to that take and frame it, okay? Frame it. Ryan saying Fox trade. You better not be trolling, bro. You're going to get us to check. And we're all going to get head faked. And we're all going to go to Shams. Oh, no. It actually happened? Oh, shit. Oh my God. It actually happened. Are you kidding me? This is all it took? It took Zach LaVine? No wonder Zach LaVine has been playing. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Sacramento is finalizing a trade to send De'Aaron Fox to San Antonio in a multi-team trade that moves Chicago Bulls Zach LaVine to the Kings. Okay. Yikes. There's got to be so much more to this, man. Because there's no way in hell Zach LaVine by himself is getting you De'Aaron Fox. But that's huge. So I'm curious what San Antonio gave in this deal. I'm pretty sure. Okay, let's figure this out. Just from context, let's figure out what happened in this deal. I'm going to guess that Stephon Castle is going to the Kings, and a lot of salary and expirings and possibly Keldon Johnson are going to the Bulls. Damn. So yeah, I think it's going to be Stephon Castle, bro. I think Stephon Castle is the piece that moves this. And if you're the Kings, getting LaVine and Castle in a deal for Fox makes some sense, right? That makes sense. I mean, from the LaVine perspective, obviously, you had to do it for the salaries, right? Mel saying, looks like you're on for another hour. I am definitely not on for another hour. I have a lot of work to do with Pendants, but if this trade materializes into including, it says it's a multi-team trade. It could include something from the Toronto Raptors, maybe. Might be a reason that Davion Mitchell was not active today. We don't know. I mean, he was there, at least. So, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, we'll see. If it involves the Raptors in any way or if it breaks. Okay. Tony is saying Kevin Huerter to Chicago. Yeah, that was definitely going to happen. The Dallas Mavericks are very, very desperate to move off of. Sorry, the Dallas Mavericks. Okay. Does anyone else? Who are you guys following on this one? It could be just both Sacks, Spurs. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, this is crazy. The fact that this happened. Yeah, tomorrow's panel is going to be must watch. I will not be on though. All right. Okay. If this deal materializes, if more deals break tonight, I will definitely do a live maybe around midnight after I've done a little bit of work on Pendants. I have a lot of work to do today. So unfortunately, I was supposed to do it earlier, ended up in a long conversation, ended up talking about the Luka trade, etc. So yeah. 3 firsts to Sacramento. Where are you guys getting this? Chris Haynes? Oh my God. Tony is saying NBA Reddit. So NBA Reddit's got it. Where is it? What am I missing? Yo, for real. So NBA Reddit on Twitter? Is that an account? Okay, let's check. It says these posts are protected. This is not the right one. Where the hell am I? Sorry, I am lost. What am I missing here? New. Where is new? Doesn't okay. Oh, gotcha. On NBA Reddit. So click on new. I don't have any. There we go. Jason Tatum in the 26-point comeback. Okay, here we go. Three first-round picks. What in the Luka? Well done, Sacramento. This is a good haul. There's no fucking way these guys got Fox without giving up any good players. What the fucking devil magic does Brian Wright have? Wait, are you telling? There's no way. You're gonna tell me Stephon Castle is not involved in this deal? Wow. That is wild. That is absolutely insane. Yikes. Castle not being involved. So the Spurs get to keep their 4th overall pick, whom they really liked. I can only imagine that the Kings are pretty upset, man. I got to check in on my friend, my boy Leo, and see how he's feeling right now. Yeah, this is a heist by the Spurs for sure. The Spurs. Did they at least give up like Devin Vassell? Like, what the hell? No, I'm waiting for the details to come out. We'll definitely do a live about the trade deadline. Maybe we do like a live every day around midnight. It can become like a successful sort of episode of. Oh, that's nice. I believe one of you just bought a pen dance pass. Thank you very much for the support. Yes, I don't know, man. Like I have no clue. You know, how many more deals are going to go down, but this is interesting, right? Like the Chaim Dirks saying Raptors going to make a move soon. Yeah. Daniel Franklin saying Sabonis to the Lakers. I think I'm pretty confident in saying they don't have enough, but yeah, this should be very, very interesting. Okay, I want to make some phone calls. Obviously, something like this happens. Gotta check in, do my own independent research. But damn, I really have a lot of work to do for Pendants, and it feels like De'Aaron Fox and Luka Doncic getting traded. I mean, here's the irony of the ironies. Okay, do you know the Kings passed on Luka Doncic largely because they felt they already had De'Aaron Fox, and now both of them are gone. That's crazy. Shams posted all the details. Okay, thank God. Okay, let's get back to this. Okay. So the Spurs get De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin. The Kings get Zach LaVine, City Sissoko, 3 first-round picks, the 2025 from Charlotte, which is heavily protected, I'm sure, 2027 from San Antonio, 2031 from Minnesota, 3 second-round picks. The Bulls get Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, and their own 2025 pick via San Antonio. What? Wait. You think the Bulls got fleeced? They got a first-round pick for Zach LaVine. No, the Bulls got their pick back, bro. So now they can successfully tank. This is a very huge thing. Now, to grade this deal out, the Spurs, A++++. Okay, 100% steal. Okay, the Bulls, A. The Kings, F. What the fuck? You got Zach LaVine, City Sissoko, and 3 first. Actually, you know what? Hold on. Let me hold off on that. The Kings, C minus. Okay. There's no way in hell that you are going to tell me that Zach LaVine and De'Aaron Fox are comparable assets. They are not. And 3 first-round picks, all of which likely have protections, are not moving it. However, those are not low-value first-round picks necessarily. However, with where the Spurs potentially are going, with the fact that that 2025 pick is probably... Does anyone know if there's protections on that 2025 Charlotte pick? Hold on. Just want to check here for a sec. Charlotte Hornets draft picks. No, that's former draft picks. Future draft picks. Charlotte Hornets. Incoming and outgoing. Let's just check here on Fanspo. Fanspo is literally crashing right now. Spurs trading that Dillingham pick will be absolute robbery. You talking about that 2031? No, I don't think that's protected 1 through 14 and then becomes 2 seconds. If that is in fact true, then the fleece is like the fleece of the century. Okay, well, I can't wait to hear what Kings media is going to say about this. I'm having a feeling a lot of them are going to cope and, you know, try to sell themselves on Zach LaVine, etc. But Zach LaVine is a very expensive contract. And oh, by the way, DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine are back together again. The Kings gonna king, right? The Kings are gonna king. Now, I will say this. I don't think De'Aaron Fox has played all that well this year. I think he's a much better defender than Zach LaVine, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they're okay for the short term. This is not the worst deal. But this is such a good deal for San Antonio. The idea that you could trade De'Aaron Fox and not get back. I mean, clearly Fox really forced their hand on this one, right? I don't think Jeremy Sohan is moving the needle at all. Ox will be pissed. I don't know. Maybe Ox really likes Zach LaVine. We will see. Okay, 2 huge trades have broken. Will the Raptors add their name to this, or are the Raptors just going to be like, no, it's okay. We're just going to keep winning. We'll see. All right. I'll talk to y'all later. And definitely if more news breaks about this, or, you know, we need to cover anything more than we've already talked about in the last 10 minutes, we'll certainly do a live today or maybe tomorrow. I think tomorrow might be more advisable for, you know, a trade deadline primer and just maybe even looking at some of the options that the Raptors have, right? Is this the craziest day in NBA history or what? I would say the last 24 hours, given that 2 all-star level players under the age of 30 basically just went for nothing. I mean, I would say nothing. I'm not trying to be rude to Anthony Davis and Zach LaVine, but like, I think they've gone for a lot less. And I think maybe it's showing me that couldn't the Raptors have beat this offer though? I mean, I'm just dead curious here. The only thing here is De'Aaron Fox maybe didn't want to be here, right? And I think that's where you got to just factor that in. Be like, okay, yeah, sure, the Raptors could beat that offer, but it's like, does he want to be here? Will he sign here long term? How many teams are willing to roll the dice like the Raptors did with Kawhi? Probably not a lot. So, yeah. I don't know if Anthony Davis's contract is bad, man. Anyway, tough day to be a Kings fan. But also, I think maybe this is just, it's funny. The Sacramento Kings relationship with De'Aaron Fox, at least from what I've understood from people who cover the Kings, was very poor 3 years ago. And even though they started to win the year after and, they made some changes, brought in Mike Brown, etc., I wonder if, like, there's some truth to the idea that once it's fractured, it's always a little bit fractured. Like that once that relationship, that initial trust kind of goes away, it doesn't completely just come back. It doesn't just wash away. And I think there might be something to that. I listened to like several, De'Aaron Fox conferences back then. And I thought to myself, he's not staying there long term. There's no way in hell. It's very similar to the way I felt about Luka Doncic. It just felt like neither one of these guys were exactly where they wanted to be. And now you're going to see players who are where they want to be. Now, if Jimmy Butler ends up in Phoenix tomorrow, now you're really going to see everybody where they want to be. And what I understand, and from what I understand, just watching this league for as long as I have now, people play better when they're playing happy. So expect De'Aaron Fox and Victor Wembanyama. I mean, this is great for the league, guy. Come on. Everyone in the league has been demanding, begging for this, right? We want Wemby to have another star. We want Wemby to have some help. Boom. Now he has it. And he has a young core, and they didn't dismantle anything. They kept Sohan. Apparently, they kept Devin Vassell. And, oh, my God. This is a great move for the Sacramento Kings. A++++. The Sacramento Kings stay fleecing. They fleeced the Raptors 2 deadlines ago. They fleeced the Raptors 3 deadlines ago. I'm just happy the Sacramento Kings fleeced somebody else but us. Good job, RC Buford. I'll talk to y'all later. Have a great one. Make sure to hit like on your way out. And I'm really happy the lives are back. Oh, wait. Big thank you to Ricky. Big thank you to Clan Holmes. Big thank you to Bueno Kitty. Big thank you to CGB23. Huge thank you again to Slitherman. James Barron, thank you very much for the super chat. And Japjeet Singh, whose name I hope I'm saying it correctly, thank you very much. Talk to y'all later. Have a great one.